So here we go. When you're looking at what's going on in the world today, in the Middle East is such a very sensitive area. Middle East fares so greatly or pictures so greatly in prophecy. And many people don't understand why so. It's the center of the Bible. It's the center of events. It's right there is where the promised land are. In fact, a lot of the nation that was created are still over there today. We have lots of history to go into. Before you can actually touch what's going on in history today, we have to go back into ancient history to see who the Syrians are. We need to see who these modern day Syrians are. In fact, are they the real, in fact, the ancient Assyrians? We're going to be reading from the book called this is the Hunger's Bible Dictionary. Hunger's Bible Dictionary. We're going to be reading a brief history on Syria. And we're also going to go into the Bible to look at, it's going to be making a lot of biblical references. This is a major publishing company. Let's read here where it says Syria and where what it means.
Syria. Hebrew. Aram.
What is it?
Aram.
Aram. The word Aram or Aram, in English they call it Aram. Aram is actually a Hebrew word, but it's actually Aram. Go ahead.
Aram in Greek. Syria. In general, Aram, the youngest of Shem, is mentioned as the founder of the Aramean nation.
Arameans. Some people call them the Arameans. You have Shem, come from the seed of Shem, but you're going to see that those areas are also going to be taken over by also the Hamitic races. We're going to look at that now. So let's go to the book of Genesis real quick to look at. We saw this last night. Shem, Genesis chapter 10, verse 20. Talking about the sons of Shem, you're going to see Aram in Genesis chapter 10. These are Shemitic races. That's why we can understand their language. Even in their city called Aram, we still call the nations, the real Jews, we the real Jews call the nations, all the nation was named by the Jews, by the real Hebrews, the Hebrews. That's why we read the Bible in our native tongue and even understand the Gentile nation, because we even named them, especially in those early time in history when the languages were still very, very close and similar. So here in Genesis chapter 10, we're going to read here in verse 21.
Verse 21. And unto Shem also the father of all the children of Eber.
Of all the children of what?
Of Eber.
Shem begat the sons of Eber or Eber, where you get the word Hebrew. In Genesis chapter 14 verse 13, it tells you that Abraham is called Abraham the Hebrew or the Igbo. Our people, we are the Jews, the Hebrews. Come on.
The brother of Japheth.
The brother of Japheth.
The older.
Japheth, the one that crossed over in the Hebrew, expanded. The word Japheth means to expand. They expanded into Eurasia and became the original dwellers. Even the original dwellers of those areas that will be conquered by Alexander. You're going to see how Alexander is going to also conquer, do a lot of his conquest. Go ahead.
Even to him were children born. So let me read it again.
Come on, continue.
Okay, children born. The children of Shem, Elam.
The children of Shem, Shemitic races are what?
Elam.
Elam, come on.
And Ashur.
Ashur.
And Arphaxad.
Arphaxad.
And Lud.
And Lud.
And Aram.
Aram. That's where you get the word Syria or Assyria. There were Shemitic races that were all in the Middle East as well. And they're going to become the ancient Assyrians. Remember, that's why you can actually understand that the ancient Assyrians were dark-skinned people. We studied last night the color of these people. We saw that Adam, dark-skinned man, to Chihuahua, his wife, down to Noah, another dark-skinned man, the same bloodline, who begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth. That's Shem, Ham, and Japheth. We saw the Hamitic races are the Africans, dark-skinned. We saw the Hamitic races like the Ethiopians. You have the Ethiopians. You have the Egyptians, the Nubians. You have the Hausa, the Fulani people, the Somalians. These are true Africans. Then you have the Shemitic race. They're also dark-skinned people, different levels of melanin, the true historical record. And these people that became the seed of Shem, you're going to see that they're also dark-skinned people. So also was the ancient Assyrians. We have their archaeology as well in these history books. So read that verse again.
Genesis chapter 10, verse 21. And unto Shem also the father of all the children of Eber.
Of all the children of Eber, go ahead.
Eber, the brother of Japheth.
The brother of Japheth,
the older. Even to him were children born.
Go ahead.
The children of Shem, Elam, Ashur, and Arphaxad.
Ashur also is another name for Syria, Ashurians, because they were in the same geographical area. When you study the dispersal of people after the flood, you have Ashurites, which became Assyrians, just like another name for Assyria is Aram, but these are brothers. The same families were still over there in Middle East. Ashur,
Arphaxad, and Lud, and Aram.
And Aram, which is also the brother of Ashur, Ashurians, that another name that was the Syrians were ultimately called because they eventually dwelt in the same geographical region. That's what we saw in the Bible. So back down to the history books. Give us the name of the history book again. And why is trying to get into the history book? As you can see in this book, we have a book here called Bible as History in Pictures. It's going to show you the 12 tribes of Israel. They were also dark-skinned people. You see the Indian nation, the Indian tribes. The Indian tribes are here that came to America. And here are the Negroes with their woolly hair. When we were walking into Egyptian captivity or Egyptian slavery. Amazing. Amazing. Now, not only was the Hebrews black, but Egyptians were also dark-skinned people too. The Egyptians and the true Africans were dark-skinned people as well, based on true historical archaeology. Based on true historical records. But there's a concerted effort to mingle everything. Here are Israelites working in ancient Egypt as slaves, just like we were picking cotton in America. The Egyptians were dark. The Israelites were dark-skinned. And also the Assyrians. You see Egyptian punishing an Israelite slave. You see the guy down on the ground is an Israelite slave. And then you see the Egyptian, Hamitic. These are three different sons of Noah. Egyptians are the sons of Noah. Then you have the Shemitic race, Israelite from the seed of Shem, dark-skinned people. And guess who also is also dark-skinned? The Aramites, or the ancient Assyrians. You're going to see them as well here. We also have all this archaeology. So why am I showing these images? So you can get a pictorial representation or a mental imagery of who these people are and what they look like. Because there's been so much distortion of world history. I'm going to show you what the Assyrians look like. They were not looking like this modern day Assyrians. But there's a lot of movements and changes that happen all through history. Continue to read.
This is the Bible Dictionary, the Andrews Bible Dictionary. And the definition of Syria says Hebrew, Aram, in Greek, Syria. It's in generation as the founder of the Aramean, I said, Aram, the youngest son of Shem, is mentioned as the founder of the Aramean nation.
As the founder of what?
Aramean nation.
Here are the Arameans. This is what they look like. The true Arameans, the people that you hear about that was chasing the northern kingdom of Israel, we're going to read that in history as well. They were dark-skinned people too. Different levels of melanin. Different shades of melanin. Look at them here. And he is an Israelite from the northern kingdom. When he was arrested, one of the king of Israelites, when he was arrested and he was bowing down to the kings of the Syrians before they because the Syrians took down the northern kingdom of Israel before they came to America. But here they are. This is this is 2 Kings chapter 13. The unique portrait of Yehu, the army of commander who was elevated king in 845 BC, has been represented on the Assyrian relief. It is an enlargement from the famous black obelisk of the Shalmaneser III from Nimrod. You see that? This is one of the kings of the Israelites bowing down, a relic that was done by the Assyrians. The king of the Jews, dark-skinned people, even back then, when they began to subdue us, because it was the Syrians that took us down before subsequently the northern kingdom came to slavery in America. Amazing. So we know what the Syrians look like this. Absolutely. So we like to prove everything. So now we're looking at the history of the transformation that's going to lead to what's going on today in modern day Syria and their hand in prophecy and why it's important to understand what's going on over there. Go ahead.
So it says, Aram, the youngest son of Shem, is mentioned as the founder of the Aramean nation, and thus the country is rightly called Aram in Numbers 23:7. But the same Hebrew word is rendered Mesopotamia in the book of Judges, chapter 3, verse 10.
In the book of Judges, chapter what?
3, verse 10.
Go ahead.
The designation Syria is an abbreviation form of Assyria and came into common use after the conquest of Alexander the Great.
Because you're going to see that Alexander the Great, Alexander the Greek, if you will, these are Romans related to the Greeks and the Romans. Looks like this as well. I want to show you the big picture representation. Alexander, and when you read in the book of Second Maccabees and First Maccabees, in fact, particularly the First Maccabees, it shows you how Alexander will in fact conquer the whole world. You're going to read that in history today. He will definitely conquer the whole world and subdue the Persians, and he begins to control those areas. Go ahead.
The ancient geographers are not agreed. It says, as to the extent of Assyria, confounding as did Herodotus, Syria and Assyria. The Hebrew Aram seems to commence on the northern frontier of Palestine and to extend thence northward to the skirts of the Taurus Mountains.
So he goes to give you the geographical location of where it is. But let's jump down here where he talks about history.
Assyria has been peopled from of old, and all of the nations of the ancient Near East.
Read that again.
Assyria has been peopled from of old, and all of the nations of the ancient Near East.
So from all the Near Eastern nations has been able to people, or mean to populate Syria. So we see what they began to look like at the time when they were fighting against us. But starting from that on time, because you know that in Genesis chapter 2, verse 14, Genesis chapter 3, verse 14 and 15, the Most High talks about how he's going to cause war across the races. So world history has been replete with conquest. These as these Syrians were going to be people, their land is going to be taken over many times in history and ruled over by different people. Let's read it again.
It said, Syria has been peopled from of old, and all the nations of the ancient Near East, as well as Rome in later times.
As well as what?
Rome in later times.
So we saw Alexander the Great took over the same area. You're going to see Rome take over the same area because it was almost part of the Asia Minor in Middle East. Even the Europeans, so whenever they conquered, they begin to move their people in those geographical regions. Continue.
As well as Rome in later times had dealings with the Assyrians.
Go ahead.
First occupants. The first occupants appear to have been an Hamitic descent.
A what?
Hamitic descent.
The word Hemet or Ham or Cham actually is the Africans. You have Noah had 3 sons, Cham, which means heart, the Africans, the Egyptians, the Ethiopians, and then the Canaanites, the Libyans, and then you have the Hamitic. That's the Hamitic people that was almost there in that land. When did this happen? Back in Genesis chapter 10. It shows you that the sons of Ham, which one particularly, the Canaanites, took over that land. Let's show you there. Genesis chapter 10.
Genesis chapter 10 verse 15, and it reads, And Canaan begat Zidon.
And Canaan begat who?
Zidon.
Zidonians were the Phoenicians. Come on.
His firstborn.
Go ahead.
And Heth.
And who?
And Heth.
The Hittites. You're going to find out the Hittites where they settled was also in those areas. I'm going to read that in history. But before you read, let's show that these are Hamitic races. Go up to verse 4. Verse 6, I'm sorry.
Genesis chapter 10 verse 6. And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Put, and Canaan.
These are the Africans. And Canaan, come down back down to verse 14 again. I'm sorry, verse 15 again.
Genesis chapter 10 verse 15. And Canaan begat Zidon, his firstborn.
Come on.
And Heth.
Go ahead.
And Jebusites.
And Jebusites.
And the Amorites.
The Amorites.
And the Girgasites.
The Girgasites.
And the Hivites.
Go ahead.
And the Archites. And the Sinites.
These are all Africans, Canaanitish Africans or Hamitic ones, dark-skinned people. Go ahead.
And the Arvadites.
The Arvadites.
And the Zemarites.
The Zemarites.
And the Hamatites.
The Hamatites. Keep that word in mind. Hamat. Go ahead.
And afterwards, where the families of the Canaanites spread abroad.
Let's find out where they were spread abroad. Verse 19.
And the borders of the Canaanites was from Zidon, and as thou comest thou to Ger.
To Gerar. That's right there next to Gaza Strip. Read it.
Unto Gaza.
In the Middle East, as you start walking into Africa.
As thou goest unto Sodom and Gomorrah.
Is below them. That's in Negev. In the southern Judea. Go ahead.
And Adamah and Zeboim, even unto Lasha.
Even unto what?
Lasha.
Go ahead.
These are the sons of Ham.
These are the sons of Ham, the Africans that was in Middle East. Even all the way over there before we're going to come to take our land. These are Africans or Hamitic races different from us, the Israelites. So now, go back to the history now and pick it up on where you left off.
The first occupants appeared to have been of Hamitic descent, the Canaanites races, the Hittites, the Jebusites, the Amorites, etc.
Exact same people that we read about, because they were scattered in all those areas, even up to modern day Syria, that we will conquer them, where the northern kingdom of Israel will eventually take over. So the land of Syria belongs to us. Amazing. It was part of the northern kingdom that was right above Samaria. It's part of the promised land. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, it says the Hittites, the Jebusites, the Amorites, etc. are connected in scriptures with Egypt and Ethiopia.
Go ahead. Because the Egyptians are related to the Canaanites. They are all true Africans. And the Ethiopians are the Cushites that were settled in Africa. In fact, the Canaanites were supposed to have been in Africa. But these particular Canaanites settled in those regions. That's why when we were taking them down, that land actually belongs to us.
That's right. They weren't supposed to be there.
They were not supposed to be there. They were supposed to be next to Libya. Libya is next to Egypt. And they were supposed to be over there by Mauritania and Morocco area. Go ahead.
Egypt, it says, the Canaanites are connected to the scriptures with Egypt and Ethiopia, Cush and Mizraim. Genesis chapter 10 verse 6, 15 to 18. These tribes occupied not only Palestine, but also Lower Syria in very early time.
These tribes occupied where?
Not only Palestine.
They did not only occupy Palestine, the promised land,
but also Lower Syria.
But also Lower Syria. These are Africans. Go ahead.
In very early times.
In very early time, these are the people that will be displaced. Go ahead.
As we may gather from the fact that the Hemeth.
That the what?
The Hemeth.
The Hemetites. We saw that in the Bible already. Here we're reading that in history. Hemeth did what?
Is assigned to them in Genesis chapter 10 verse 18.
In Genesis chapter 10 verse 18, where we read. Go ahead.
Afterwards, they seem to have come in possession of Upper Syria also. After a while, the first comers who were still to a great extent nomads received a Semitic infusion.
You see that? So now here comes the Shemitic race is coming. Dark-skinned Syrians now, but the original people right after the flood in Genesis chapter 10 were dark-skinned Africans. Canaanites to be quite in fact. In particular, Hemeth, or Het, and Hittites. They all dwelt in those areas. To let you know that the Shemitic race were dark-skinned and the Hamitic race were dark-skinned. Those areas, but people knew who they were. Like we showed the visual of what they looked like. Go ahead.
Which most probably came to them from the SE. It says that the only Syrian town whose extents we find distinctly marked as at this time is Damascus.
Is what?
Damascus.
Damascus, the capital city of Syria. We're going to look at what's going on in Damascus today, in current history, but you need to understand how it got to where it is today. That's why we're going through Bible and world history to prove what's really going on over there. That is going to lead to our people waking up. It's going to lead to Zion. This is about the burden of the children of Israel scattered worldwide, because these nations got together to put us down. Go ahead.
To Damascus, which appeared to have been already a place of some importance. Next to Damascus must be placed Hamath.
Hamath.
In the book of Numbers chapter 13, 21, 34, 8. Libo-Hamath.
Go ahead.
Syria at this time and for many centuries afterwards seemed to have been broken up among a number of petty kingdoms.
You see that? So you begin to see the disintegration of the real Syrians. And as we read already in history, the influx of different people that has overrun the place. So and when you see like the sea people in Syria today, they're not the ancient Assyrians, really.
No.
You will find some of the ancient Assyrians, but they've been overtaken. So these people you see there are actually Edomites, some of them. And some of them are Arabs. We're going to read there. That took over those areas. But there's a prophecy about that region in the Bible, how it will be taken down. We're going to look at that. Continue.
Testimony of the monuments. Egyptian records show that under the powerful 80th and 90th Egyptian dynasties, when Egypt ruled the East from the 16th to the 13th century BC, Syria as well as Palestine was made a dependency of Egypt.
Syria became a dependency on Egypt because Egypt was a powerful civilization at some point. Go ahead.
She was forced to relax her hold in consequence of local uprisings until finally she fully retrieved her position under the 19th dynasty.
Go ahead. That's the Egyptians. So it's going to go to history to show you what happened to Syria, leading to what is going on there today. Egyptians took over it, controlled it for a while. Go ahead.
Egypt then was met by the Hittites and compelled to call a halt upon the Syria border.
Go ahead.
And it says, Arna letters and the Hittite monuments from a book. It's referencing a book. Syria and Israel, the Jews.
Now this is Syria and Israel because we had battles with them. They're going to break us into pieces, particularly the northern kingdom of Israel. Go ahead.
The Jews came into the hostile contact with the Syrians in the time of David, claiming the frontier of the Euphrates, which the Most High had promised to Abraham in Genesis chapter 15:18.
So they begin to claim our land that was promised to our forefathers. The Syrians begin to claim it too, and David has to defend us, King David. So this battle that you see here goes way back. The battle of the different nations fighting. David was fighting against the Assyrians. King David was fighting against the Edomites. He was fighting against the Persians. He was fighting against the Arabs. Now we're not even in the picture anymore because we've been dispersed and scattered worldwide and suffering in war diaspora. But now they got the battle now. And you go find out who's in this battle. Let's read it.
David made war on Hadadezer, king of Zeboah, in the book of 2 Samuel chapter 8, 3 and 13. The Damascus Syria were likewise defeated with great loss. Zeboah, however, was far from being subdued as yet, when a few years later the Ammonites determined on engaging in a war with David and asking the Syrians for aid.
You see that? So that was happening back then. Nation coming together to share military help to fight against another nation. It was all this has always happened in the Middle East and all the world wars. Go ahead.
Zeboah, together with Beth Rehob, sent them 20,000 footmen and two other Syrian kingdoms, furnished 13,000. When this army was defeated by Joab, Hadadezer obtained aid from Mesopotamia and tried to chance of a third battle, which likewise went against him and produced the general submission of Syria to the Jews' monarchy.
So the what?
The Jews' monarchy.
You see that? So now they become under us. We control Syria for a while. King David, we actually subdued them. And they became under us at some point. These nations are the ones that are going to come together. You're going to find out this modern day Syria are not this ancient day Syrians. Go ahead.
The submission thus continued under the reign of Solomon in 1 Kings chapter 4 verse 21.
Go ahead.
The only part of Syria that Solomon lost seemed to have been Damascus.
Seems to have been what?
Damascus.
So now we begin to look at Solomon begin to disobey the Most High. So we begin to disintegrate as a nation. Go ahead.
Where an independent kingdom was set up by reason, a native of Zeboah, on the separation of the 10 tribes from Rehoboam.
You see that? So now that's when we begin to split the nation. We read that in 2 Kings how the Most High split the nations, and that became a massive decline. You see what happened to Israel, our rise, our fall, and our rise back again shows you world history in perfect picture. The people that you should be looking at is what's going on with this nation and what's going on with Israel. This is when we began to fall. And we've been suffering slavery, oppression, racism, poverty, diaspora scattered worldwide since the time of King Solomon, leading to our kingdom now getting ready to come, and that's what we're seeing what's going on in Syria now. Go ahead.
It said Syria was ripe for revolt. Reason disappeared from the scene, and Ben-Hadad, in the reign of Asa, king of Judah.
Asa, an Igbo name or Hebrew name, king of Yehuda. Go ahead.
Was king of Aram, with Damascus as its capital.
See that? Because we took over those areas. Go ahead.
As its capital. It said he formed part of the kingdom of the 10 tribes.
You see that? So Syria, the kingdom of 10 tribes, we took over there. Go ahead.
Later, Ben-Hadad laid siege to Samaria, Ahab's capital.
Go ahead.
But was defeated. meeting with a still greater disaster the following year.
Ahab, or Ahab, our king of northern kingdom, finally in this battle with the Syrians. Go ahead.
In an endeavor to recover Ramoth Gilead, Ahab was defeated and slain. Samaria was again besieged in the days of Jehoram, son of Ahab.
So his son continues the battle. So the history that we're showing you is we were in the midst of this battle. We've been in this battle. When we were holding Jerusalem, there's been a battle for Zion. This is the controversy of controlling the promise given to us. But Ahab and Jehoram, his son, they were not living right. A lot of these people were not doing righteously. And Solomon began to fall, and we begin to fall as a nation. King David was the one that actually did what Heavenly Father wanted. That's when we control all this area. We read it already, but now here come them begin to slip out of our hand. That's why the Gentiles got power and rulership, and we became poor people. Particularly, you're going to see Edom. You're going to see Edom is going to move into those areas and control this area as well. Go ahead.
But as the result of panic, it was delivered. War continued to be waged between the Syrian king Hazael ben-Hadad, Rezin, and the kings of Israel, Jehoram, Jehu, Jehoaz, Joash, Jeroboam II. In the latter days of Jotham, king of Judah, where Rezin, king of Aram, and Pekah, king of Israel, confederates against Judah.
All these are in the Bible, by the way. Go ahead.
They invaded the country, threatened the capital, and recovered Elath for Aram.
For who?
For Aram.
So they begin to take it back now for their own people. Go ahead.
In the reign of Ahaz, who, to protect himself...
His name is not Ahaz, his name is Achiaz. It's an Igbo name, a Negro that was ruling over our people as well. Achiaz, which means to seize power in the Hebrew. Go ahead.
In the reign of Ahaz, Achiaz, who to protect himself became a vassal of Tiglath-Pileser, up against Damascus and captured. He went up against Damascus and captured it, and carried the people of it away into exile to Kir, and put Rezin to death. 2 Kings chapter 16 verse 9.
He gives you the biblical references. Go ahead.
For a study of the period of Israel's relationships with the Aramean.
You can stop right there. Okay. Let's jump down right here. Alexander. The relationship with Assyrian with Babylonians. Because the Babylonians and the Assyrians are always for that side they were broken. Eventually, at some point, the Babylonian civilization became powerful from the beginning of the time of Nimrod, and they fell, and the Assyrians became powerful when they took the northern kingdom of Israel down, which ultimately here come Babylonians rising back up again when they're going to take down this Judah, Levi, and Benjamin under King Nebuchadnezzar. These are all history, but they have always had controversy amongst themselves as well. Go ahead.
Where do you want me to start?
Start from where he said the relationship with Assyria and Babylonia.
Okay. Syria became attached to the great Assyrian Empire.
Syria became attached to what?
To the great Assyrian Empire.
You see there? The ancient Assyrian right next to Babylonia became power, so now they absorbed it. Go ahead.
From which it passed to the Babylonians, and from them to the Persians.
And from them to the what?
To the Persians.
After the Babylonian civilization, who took the rulership next?
The Persians.
The Persians took world rulership. Exactly, Bible history, Bible prophecy predicted. Go ahead.
In 333 BC, it submitted to the Alexander without a struggle.
So who took world rulership according to Daniel chapter 7 and chapter 2 after in world history? Who took rulership after the Persians? Alexander. The Grecian Empire took over world rulership. They controlled the whole territory. Begin to send their people for those areas. Go ahead.
Upon the death of Alexander, Syria became for the first time the head of a great kingdom.
You see that? That's when now he became a power. But who was controlling this kingdom?
The Grecians. Alexander.
The Grecians were controlling. So these people that you see over there, They're not the ancient Assyrians. These people. If you're looking for, you have to go back and look in the deep villages, just like you can't find the true Egyptians in the land. The deep Egyptians were also forced down into southern kingdom, like in Sudan and some part of East Africa. It's amazing. Go ahead.
Syria became, for the first time, the head of a great kingdom. On the division of the provinces among his general, 321 BC. 321 BC.
He began to divide the nation. This is also in the book of Daniel. It's also in the book of Ezra and the book of Maccabees, how Alexander divided the world in 4 different parts under his 4 generals: Seleucus, Cassandra, Lysimachus, and Ptolemy. They ruled the world. Go ahead.
Seleucus Nicator received Mesopotamia and Syria.
Read that again. On the division of the what?
On the division of the provinces among his general. On the division of the provinces among his generals.
They divided those ancient worlds. These are Edomite rulership now. Esau, Caucasians ruling the world right now. Watch what they're going to do now. Divide the world again. Just like, this is the first time they're going to begin to divide and move people around. Esau or Edom, come on.
Seleucus Nicator.
You got to give us the date. On the division of the what?
On the division of provinces among his general in 321 BC.
In 321 before Christ, 321 years before Christ shows up in the scene. What did we do?
Seleucus Nicator received Mesopotamia and Assyria.
You see that? Seleucus, one of the generals of Alexander, received Mesopotamia and what else?
And Syria.
And Syria. And they begin to move their people in those regions. Amazing. Amazing. Go ahead.
Antioch was begun in 300 BC and being finished in a few years was made the capital of Seleucus' kingdom. The country grew rich with the wealth that now flowed into it on all sides.
You see that? Why? Because Esau is controlling it now. Esau is controlling Syria now. Go ahead.
The most flourishing period was the reign of the founder, Nicator. The empire was then almost as large as that of the Achaemenid Persians.
Go ahead.
For it at one time included Asia Minor.
You included what?
Asia Minor.
So all these places called Asia Minor, which modern day today is Turkey, was part of Syria at this time. You need to see the metamorphosis geographically of this region and why they're significant in what's going on in prophecy. Go ahead.
Asia Minor, and thus reached from the Aegean to India, beginning with the reign of Nicator's son, Nicator, the Antiochus I, called Soter. Syria progressively declined. It passed under the power of Tigran, king of Armenia, in 83 BC.
In 83 before Christ,
and was not made a province of the Roman Empire till after Pompey completes defeat of Mithridates and his ally Tigrans in 64 BC.
You see that? So now, here comes the Romans now. World History 101. Roman, after the Grecian now, here comes Roman Empire. This is amazing. This is exactly what the Bible says.
Exactly what the Bible says.
Amazing. Wow. Go ahead.
Under the Romans.
Now we're looking at under the Romans. What happened to Syria under the Romans?
As Syria holds an important place in the NT as well as in the OT.
Here are the Romans, by the way. These are the Romans. Also like the Grecians. But we saw what the Jews look like. These are the real Jews. The real Jews. These are the conflict. We saw the Jews, woolly hair, that was ruling, and we were in this battle, like the guy Achiaz or Ahaz, a Nebo man, our brothers from the tribe of Yehuda ruling there, fighting in this battle until we were totally displaced by this war, Esau has been winning the battle for a long time, since we fell. Go ahead.
Under the Romans, as Assyria holds an important place in the New Testament as well as the Old Testament.
Read that again.
Under the Romans, as the Syria holds an important place in the NT, which is, I believe, is the New Testament.
Yeah, that's correct.
And as well as the Old, in the Old T.
See that?
This is the Old Testament.
The Old Testament, because those area is very close to Jerusalem, where the disciples were even hiding from being persecuted. Where the first church was built in Damascus, they were called Nigers. We saw that in Acts of the Apostles chapter 13, when they said, and there was at the church at Damascus certain prophets and teachers that were called Nigers, or black men, the real Hebrews, the real Jews. And these Nigers are going to flee into the area now called Nigeria, waiting for slavery to be brought to America, and all Jamaica, Brazil, and Haiti. The burden of Syria is the controversy of Zion. You will see. Go ahead.
In the New Testament and the Old Testament, it says here, some account of its condition under the Romans is in order. That condition was somewhat peculiar, although the country generally was formed into a Roman province.
Go ahead.
Under governors who were at first propraetors or quaestors, then proconsuls, and finally legates. A number of free cities were exempted from the direct rule of the governor.
So there's some people that are allowed to be there by themselves, indirect rule, if you will. Go ahead.
These retained the administration of their own affairs, subject to a tribute levied according to the Roman principles of taxation.
Go ahead. So Romans levied taxes on them.
They were still ruled.
They were still ruled by the Romans at the time. That's the disintegration of those areas. Go ahead.
Also, a number of tracts assigned to petty princes, commonly natives, were ruled as their pleasure, subject to the same obligation as the free cities as to taxation.
Go ahead.
The free cities were Antioch.
Free cities were Antioch.
Seleucia.
You see, the Antioch is where the disciples built the first church, Antioch. There was a church in Antioch, certain prophets and teachers. These are why it says so prominently in prophecy, both in Old Testament and New Testament. Go ahead.
Antioch, Seleucia.
Seleucia is named after Seleucia.
Seleucus.
The
general.
The general, who also is who? And I do it!
That's crazy.
Edom. They took over those areas. Yeah. And began to move their people that it became so successful. Now here comes the Romans. The Romans took over the same area that was once controlled by us. Absolutely.
This is crazy.
It's amazing. Go ahead.
Seleucia, Apamea, and Bithynia. Bithynia.
Yes.
Tripolis, Sidon, and Tyre.
Go ahead.
You said
these are the cities, Zidonians, and these are Phoenicians, these are Africans. So let you know that the indigenous cultures were still there, but from a governmental standpoint, it was being controlled by Edom. And it's like when they take over an area, like they took over America, you come to the bigger cities, you see like in New York, on the nice places, you see Edomite businesses and culture flourishing. And then you go to the outskirts, you see the poor people still there. And you see the native people. You can still see the native Indian that has been displaced. That's how Esau has been across the world.
Still
going on today.
Yep.
You will find the same conquest still going down right there, right now. This is what the Most High put in world history and prophecy. Read it.
And Bithynia, Tripolis, Zidon, and Tyre, the principalities, Homage, Chalcis, Belum, near Baalbek, Artusa, Abila, or Abilin.
The principalities were what?
The principalities were Komegi.
No, the principalities were sometimes called kingdoms. Go ahead.
Okay, you want me to start from here?
Yes.
The principalities were sometimes called kingdoms, sometimes tetrarchs. They were established where it was thought that the natives were so invariably wedded to their own custom, and so well disposed for revolt, that is, that it was necessary to consult their feelings, to flatter the national vanity, and to give them the semblance without the substance of freedom.
See that? So that's how they control the natives. Exactly the same way they control today. The same way they control us today.
Today, yep.
You think you have freedom, but they're really controlling you. They give you some little latitude, but they control all your governments. Amazing. Now, we're going to go into this book to bring you full circle. We have another history book here. It's called Last 2 Million Years. Last 2 million years. It's going to run up through some of this stuff that we went through. This book was published by Reader's Digest, a major publishing company. Last 2 million years. Reader's Digest, a major publishing company. We will read similar history again of Syria. Syria. Let's pick it up from giving the book the page here. Page 445. We're reading about Syria, last 2 million years, on page 445. Syria. This is leading to liberation of Zion. Keep that in mind. I'm going to give the history, past, present, and future. Go ahead.
Syria. Syria's age of greatness was in the 7th and 8th century.
In 7th and 8th century, come on.
When it was the center of a vast Arab empire.
So now, Arab now begin to take. So now you see Arab take over after the Romans. So after the Romans, because we know Roman Empire fell in AD 93 and then continued collapse. Here comes Syria now, being taken over by who? The Arabs. Between the 7th and 8th century. Let's read it.
Okay. Let's say, but for much of its long history, Syria itself has been under foreign domination.
Read that again.
But for much of its long history, Syria itself has been under foreign domination.
The same thing that happened to Jerusalem. Jerusalem was dominated by foreigners. The people in Jerusalem right now are Gentiles. They're not the real Jews. Just like Egypt is dominant. We see the picture of Egyptian dark-skinned people dominated. We see the picture of we see the physiology and anthropology of the true Israelites. We show you what they look like. Us, still here. The real Egyptians, displaced, dominated. The real Syrians, displaced, also dominated for the most part, even though you can still find some of them in very few remote places. Just like the Egyptians were pushed down to Sudan and certain parts of East Africa, the Nubians. Go ahead.
Since independence in 1946.
Since independence in what?
1946.
1946. So they got their so-called independence now as a state that was controlled in 1946.
The country has been involved in the Arab conflict with Israel and has been shaken by a series of internal coups.
Internal coups. But let's look at what happened. How Israel got into Israel. The so-called Israeli, the convert Jews that took over our identity between the 7th and 10th century. These are key world history that nobody want to talk about. We're gonna read this now from Wikipedia. It talks about how they actually came in there. We have this article. When I saw this, this blew my mind. About what's really going on in Middle East, Syria, Israel, all these things are all connected. Let's read the Sykes-Picot Agreement. This is what I want you to read. We're reading from the Wikipedia. It's called the Sykes. I'm going to drop in for brothers and sisters that may not be able to do that, but just let me know if you need this documentation. We'll get it to you as well. But we're reading from a history book here. Let's read the Sykes-Picot Agreement.
The Sykes-Picot Agreement, officially known as the Assyrian Minor Agreement.
It's officially known as the what?
Asia Minor Agreement.
Asia Minor. We already saw that Asia Minor was also observed as Assyria, which is Turkey and Syria. Go ahead.
Asia Minor Agreement was a secret agreement between the government of the United Kingdom and France.
Between the government of the United Kingdom and France.
And France.
So keep that in mind. Go ahead.
United Kingdom and France. It says it with the assent of Russia, defining the proposed spheres of influences and control in the Middle East. Should the triple entity succeed in defeating the Ottoman Empire during the World War I.
So this is happening around the early 19th century during the World War I. Go ahead.
The negotiation of the treaty occurred between November 1915 and March 1916.
Come on.
The agreement was concluded on 16th May 1916.
The agreement will conclude, this picket agreement before the World War I was concluded in 16th May 1916. Read it.
The agreement effectively divided the Arab provinces of the Ottoman Empire.
Now, before you finish reading this one, you need to understand that Syria was also taken over by the Ottoman Empire. Let's show you that. Come back to this book and read that. The conquest of Syria.
Invasion and conquest. This is in the last 2 million years.
We're reading back in the last 2 million years history book. Go ahead.
In ancient times, Syria was invaded and settled by many races.
It was invaded and settled by many races.
Alexander the Great introduced Greek civilization.
Alexander the Great introduced Greek civilization.
And in 64 BC, Syria became a Roman province.
It became a Roman province controlled by the Romans.
Romans and then Byzantine.
And we know who Romans. The Romans are the Edomites, the pure Caucasians that are controlling the world, because the world is given into the hand of Esau to control. It tells you there, Esau is the end of the world. So they're making all these treaties. They're controlling what's really going on in all these different countries. They created all these countries. Read that again.
Roman and then Byzantine ruled lasted until the 7th century AD.
So Roman rule lasted until when?
7th century AD.
And after Roman Empire comes the Byzantine. Which part of those was controlling those areas as well. It was dark-skinned Israelites that were also controlling some of the Byzantine Empire, because Roman Empire was split into two. Read that again, please.
So it said Roman and then Byzantine rule lasted until the 7th century AD.
Go ahead.
When the area fell to the fanatical Arab warriors of Islam, who established the 200-year rule under the Umayyad Caliphs.
The Umayyad Caliphate. So now it falls under Arab rule.
That's it right there.
Exactly what we're reading in history. You're going to read the same thing in world history, telling you what happened to Syria. Why it became what it became today. Continue.
With Damascus as their base, the Umayyad held sway until 750.
So they make Damascus their capital, and they held sway till when?
750.
Go ahead.
When the rival Abi's family overthrew them and set upon a new caliphate in Baghdad.
Come on.
Syria then fell in turn to the Seljuk, Turks, Crusaders, and Egyptians, Mamelukes, until the Ottoman.
Until the when?
The Ottoman.
So the Turks took over the same area as well. So this is a conflict about those regions in the Middle East. Here comes the Turks, who the Turks are the Turkey, modern day Turkey, until who? The Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire was operating out of Turkey. Go ahead.
The Turks finally took over the country in the year 1516.
Then now here comes the Ottoman Empire, and the Turks took over in 1516. Go ahead.
Promises and revolt. Syria remained a part of the Ottoman Empire until the end of the First World War.
You see that? Exactly what we're reading right now in history. So they're under control of the Ottoman Empire. That's why you see the Ottoman Empire is the Muslim Arabs now taking over the same area for the control of world resources and the control of world geography and countries and conquest. This is exactly what's going on in the world today. Go ahead.
During the war, Britain had promised Syria Arab nationalists their freedom from Turkey.
You see that?
If the Allies won.
So why is Britain making decisions about what's going on in the Middle East? Because they've been in control of the war. It's significant to understand that Esau will be controlling the world in the end time. So starting from the Grecian civilization to Roman Empire And then the 10 horns, we know the 10 horns is Spain, France, Great Britain, Ireland, Netherlands, Luxembourg, Germany, Denmark, Switzerland, and Sweden. These came out of, and they are the people controlling the world today, the sons of Esau. The 10 horns spoken about in Daniel chapter 7 and Revelation chapter 10, that is carried by the last beast of
Roman Empire.
The last beast, which is Roman Empire.
Phase 2.
Phase 2. This is their activities. So what you're seeing is the battle of Rome controlling the world, controlling all activities, and now we know that America is the little horn that came out of the 10 horns, which is what they're using right now, which is the last leg of Roman Empire.
Yeah.
Controlling all this area, and we're going to see American influence. Before it was America, Great Britain was controlling these things.
That's right.
Amazing. Continue.
Britain had promised Syria, Arab nationalists, their freedom from Turkey if the Allies won. But under the secret Skype-Picot agreement...
So, read that. This is significant now. Britain promised who?
Promised Syrian Arab nationalists their freedom.
So, they told, because Arabs took over there under the Umayyad and under the Umayyad Empire and the Ottoman Empire. So, Britain, who conquered the Ottoman Empire, begin to tell them that they will give them freedom they're going to give them freedom and relinquish them from under the control of the Arabs of Turkey, because a lot of those Turks were also under control by. So you see what's going on is conquest as well as religion. Go ahead.
Under the secret Skype-Picot agreement, the British government had also pledged the country as a French sphere of influence.
You see that? So they pledged it to the French. We know French are part of the 10 horns. The control of the world. Go ahead.
In 1920, the French drove out the nationalists, and the League of Nations gave France a mandate over Syria.
Now, go ahead.
In 1925,
well, we need to look at that again when you talk about the Skype-Picot agreement, which is what we're looking at here in this history book. You need to know what this agreement is, because this agreement is what's going to break, is going to lead to them bringing the Jewish people in Jerusalem. Because while all this was going on, the nation, as you know in the prophecy, let's read in the book of Psalms 83 real quick. We're going to read Psalms 83 real quick to show you the nations that got together to take over our land, to take over the control of the world systems. Psalms chapter 83 verse 1. These are the war among the nations. Psalms 83 verse 1. Let's go.
Keep not thou silent, O Most High.
This is King David. We saw King Dawood, fighting a Negro, an Israelite, our king. He was fighting against these people for the control of the universe. Thank you. He says here, keep not thy silence, O who?
Most High.
David is telling the Most High, because we once control all those areas. All the kings of Judah was fighting, but when we begin to fail, we couldn't fight no more. And here comes his prayer. Do not keep your silence, O Most High. Go ahead.
Hold not thy peace.
Do not be peaceful or still. Just don't do nothing.
And be not still, O Most High.
A desperate prayer of a king of Israel that understands rulership. Our people don't think in terms of rulership anymore, because we've been so psychologically controlled, spiritually drained, intellectually empty to what's really going on in the world, because we don't read this history. They don't teach us none of these things. He said, keep not thy silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, O Most High. Why?
For lo, thine enemies make a tumult.
After the fall of King David's kingdom, and he went into his sons and will begin to decline, here comes the enemies, all the nations that were once called enemies. How do we know that these were the different enmity that happened? Let's go there in Romans chapter 11. Romans chapter 11 verse 1. The book of Romans chapter 11. You're going to see that what King David is saying is what Apostle Paul also writes in the book of Romans. Romans chapter 11 verse 1. Read it.
I say then, can the Most High cast away his people?
Has the Most High cast away his chosen people? Like they're saying today that it doesn't matter who we are. And what is the answer?
Most High forbid.
God forbid. Why?
For I also am an Israelite, of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin.
Come on.
Most High had not cast away his people, which he foreknew.
He has not rejected or done away with the same people that he once chose forever. It's an everlasting covenant between us and them. Verse 25.
25 says, For I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, lest ye should be wise in your own conceits.
What is the mystery?
That blindness in part is happened unto Israel.
That our people are actually blind to what's really going on, to who they are, to the deception that Satan has set up using the government structure of the world. Blindness using false education has in part happened to Israel until when?
Until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in.
Until the fullness of the Gentiles. There's an amount of people that the Most High wants the Gentiles to come to this light. Until when they come in, when this Gentile number reaches when the Most High is expecting, what will happen?
And so all Israel shall be saved.
The 12 tribes will
as
be
it
saved.
is written.
Where is it written?
There shall come out of Zion the deliverer.
Is written in the book of Isaiah. A deliverer shall come out of Zion, Christ. And what is he going to do?
And shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob.
And shall turn away godlessness or ungodliness from Jacob, us. Come on.
For this is my covenant unto them, when I shall take away their sins.
This is our covenant. That's why Christ came and died, to bring us back to the Father and to bring that rulership. All these Gentiles are battling for this world rulership that actually belongs to us, in the expense and the exploitation of our people. Go ahead.
28. As concerning the gospel,
regarding the gospel,
they are enemies for your sakes.
Regarding the gospel, we are enemies for whose sakes? Hold on. Who is Apostle Paul speaking to here? Go back to verse 13 and find out who he's speaking to.
For I speak to you, Gentiles.
Who is he speaking to?
I speak to you, Gentiles.
He's speaking to all the Gentile governments. Go back again and read it again. Verse 28.
For as concerning the 28. For as concerning the gospel,
as concerning the good news that Christ is going to deliver his chosen people and raise us back up again, what does that mean to the Gentiles?
They are enemies for your sakes.
Is that a good news for these governments? Because us rising means that they have to fall. Us rising means that all the government structure of the world will fall. They don't want to hear that. That's why they want to hide this truth, that the poor people suffering on the four corners of the earth are the real chosen seed. The people that are given promise that one day they will rise and rule the world in righteousness. That will bring the solution for the destruction of the ecosystem. They will bring the solution for poverty. They will bring the solution for unemployment. They will bring the solution for hatred and racism. They will bring the solution for lies and deceit and immorality. They will bring a solution for what's really going on in the world today. Devil is terrified about these people rising to bring the kingdom. Hence, we saw how the Most High allowed all the Gentile government to be controlled by Satan. So when he was giving us the law, statutes, and commandments, it was for our own good to keep it. Go ahead.
As concerning the gospel, they are enemies for your sakes.
We are enemies for their sakes. Come on.
But as touching the election,
as touching God choosing somebody, come on.
They are beloved for the Father's sake.
We are loved by the Most High because the Heavenly Father chose our ancestors. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Abraham, Echikakwa, and Jacob, who became the patriarchs. Go ahead.
For the gifts and calling of the Most High are irrevocable.
The gifts and callings of the Most High are
irrevocable. Without repentance.
They cannot change it.
Amen.
That's the problem today. So now, King David in Psalms 83 is praying now this prayer.
Psalms 83 verse 1. Keep thou not silent, O Most High. Hold not thy peace.
Keep not thou silent, O Alahayim. Go ahead.
Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O Most High.
Come on.
For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up their head.
Now we see the hatred now. We are enemies. Where did the hatred start? From the beginning. Let's look at that. Genesis chapter 3, verse 14 and 15. Let's read Genesis. The Most High said, I will put enmity or hatred among the nations. He's going to cause war because there's a power of darkness functioning in the world that will choose a certain people where the Most High will choose his people. And that's the plan of salvation. That's why we have it so difficult in America, in Jamaica, in the ghettos, in Haiti, in West and slave coast of Africa, where the slaves were carried from, in Mexico, in Puerto Rico, South Central America, in Brazil. We're scattered everywhere. The 12 tribes of Israel are scattered, suffering. And none say, help them. Come on.
Genesis chapter 3 verse 14. The Most High said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this. Because
thou hast done this. That's the serpent, that spirit that came down in this earth and began to compete for rulership that will line up with government structure. He took dominion that was given to man. Because thou hast done this, come on.
Thou art cursed above all cattle.
You see that? That's when the Most High crossed that spirit from the beginning. Come on.
And above every beast of the field, upon thy belly shalt thou go.
All the living, everything that has ever been created, this spirit is crossed above everything that has ever been created. Think about that. Come on.
Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life.
Go ahead.
And I will put an enmity.
I will put what?
An enmity.
A what?
Enmity.
Enmity. You see there? I will put enmity. There's going to be friction, hatred, war. So this is why the world history is replete with blood. Bible history is replete with blood. And now, when you see them talking about peace, when you look at the Thessalonians, when they say peace, 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 a sudden destruction coming. Don't listen to their signs of peace. Don't listen to their warning of globalism and Unitarianism and coming together like in Genesis chapter 10 under Nimrod when they misled the world under Satan in disobedience. The Tower of Babel. There will be no peace until the world changes. Until truth shines forth. Right. Until righteousness reigns. They say peace, peace, when there is no peace. There must be truth before peace. Go ahead.
I will put an enmity between thee and the woman.
I will put an enmity between thee and the what?
The woman.
The woman is who? Israel. He tells that in Revelation 12. He tells that in the book of Isaiah, many places. The Most High has called us as a woman. We are the woman that will come through the bloodline of Adam, Noah, down to Heber, through the seed of Shem, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and became the 12 tribe, the chosen seed, where Christ will come for his rulership. I will put an enmity between thee and the woman. So there's going to be a battle between the serpent and the woman of Israel. So this is a conflict about Zion. And what else?
And between thy seed and her seed.
So there's a seed of the serpent in this earth, controlling the world, the so-called Illuminist power. The elite structure controlling the world today. They understand there's a bloodline in this earth that they need to control, to rule. That's why all this war is all about. You're going to see there as we continue this teaching. Go ahead.
It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel.
And thou shalt bruise his heels. This is the enmity that the war was raging in the whole Bible. King David fighting, and it was called righteous. Solomon fighting, it was called righteous. Prophet Isaiah, Prophet Samuel, Shemaiah, putting down the king of Agag to death, and it was righteous. And King Saul did not kill the king. When he told to kill the king, the Most High got upset. Why is the Most High want these wars to go down? Because the whole world is in a dynamics of war. There is no peace times until the Prince of Peace returns, Christ.
Unto him.
Unto him shall the gathering of the people be. Amazing. Go ahead.
This is Psalm chapter 83, or is it 1?
Yes, 83.
Psalms 83 verse 2. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult.
Thy what?
Thy enemies make a tumult.
That's why he says that. Now those nations that are controlled by the serpents are now making a tumult. How?
And they that hate thee have lifted up their head.
Come on.
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people.
So all these nations that hate the Most High, the hidden nations, have taken a very subtle, crafty, deceptive, secret counsel against who?
Against thy people.
Who are the people of the Most High? Israel.
Us.
Read it.
And consulted against thy hidden ones.
Those people that became the lost sheep, the Negroes, the North American Indians, the Latinos that are scattered on the four corners of the earth, the so-called minorities, have taken a crafty counsel against their hidden ones. How did they do that?
They have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation.
You see that? We are no more a nation. Now they're going to put a different people in Jerusalem. Let's cut the real Jews from being what?
A nation.
Let's cut them off from being a nation that have a land, they have a history, they understand who they are, they understand the agenda. Let's cut them off from being a nation. They have a God, they have a law. The Constitution in the Bible belongs to us. That's why the Gentile cannot ride with the laws in the Bible. The government will not uphold that because it belongs to us. Let's cut them off from being a nation. Why?
That the name Israel may be no more in remembrance.
That our name may be no more in remembrance. Exactly how we became the lost sheep. Go ahead.
5. For they consulted together in one consent.
They consulted together in what?
In one consent.
One word. This is a unanimous consensus against the poor people suffering.
They are confederate against thee.
And this is a global confederacy. It's a global confederacy. A global plan or ploy to control the holy seed, to control these people, the seed of Jacob, the Negroes, the Latinos, the North American Indians, the true seed of Jacob. This is when we were walking into Africa. This is world history books letting you know that the real Jews are the Negroes. Go ahead.
6. The tabernacles of Edom.
He's going to begin to identify the consensus. This is the United Nation, the 10 horns, the little horn, and the Gentile government that work together. Who are their leaders?
The tabernacles of Edom.
The different house is a plural.
Yes.
It's plural to let you know that there are different houses or chief houses of Edom.
Exactly
like
what we
Timon.
just read here.
Exactly what we just read here. We saw French competing, making a treaty for the conquest and the control of our people against the British. Different houses of Edom. Then you have the Germans, the Timonites. The tabernacle of Edom, come on.
And the Ishmaelites.
And the who?
Ishmaelites.
Ishmael are the Arabs. They are the next, they're walking. You're going to see how they're walking hand in hand to break out a deal and negotiating a deal to control all these regions. Go ahead.
And of Moab.
The Moabites are the Palestinians.
And the Hagarenes.
The Hagarenes, come on.
Geba and Ammon.
And who?
Geba and Ammon.
Ammonites are the Jordanians. They also got their hand in this conspiracy. They are all in the Middle East still today, taking over our land. Come on.
And Amalek.
And who?
And Amalek.
Amalek is the chief leader of Edom, like the Jewish Zionists, the regime that are going to make this deal right now. You're talking about the Zionist state that converted to our culture and took our identity, took over our land. They converted between the 7th and the 8th century behind all these wars. Amalek is the one that's going to be breaking up this treaty that we've been reading about. And we're going to read you this treaty. It's a secret treaty in the early 1900s. How they're going to bring the Jewish Zionists into Jerusalem in our land. Come on.
And Amalek.
Come on.
The Palestinians with the inhabitants of Tyre.
The Palestinians with the inhabitants of who?
Tyre.
Those are the Africans, and the seafarers or the Phoenicians, dark-skinned people, Palestinians, all those regions, come on.
Ashur also is joining with them.
Who is Ashur? Syria. Syria, all these people are all in cahoots. Ashur is also joined with them because they've been fighting against us right from the beginning. This is King David understanding who the enemies are, the government structure. Now the Most High is sending a conflict amongst them. Go ahead.
They have opened the children of Lot.
They have helped who?
The children of Lot.
The children of Lot are Ammon and Moab. That are fighting in our land right now. Go ahead.
Selah.
Think about that. All the Lot that we helped, our nephew, our forefather helped him.
And this is what he did.
And this is what he did. Go ahead.
Do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin, as to Brook of Kison, which perished at Endor.
Which perished at what?
Endor.
These are the stories that you read when we're coming out of Egyptian slavery. We took these great and powerful wars. This war is going to happen. As you see, it's already going down. We're going to rise back up again, so they don't want our people to rise. Come on.
They became as dung for the earth.
Come on.
Make their nobles like Oreb.
Make their what?
Their nobles like Oreb.
Their government, their rulership like Oreb. You can read that story in the Old Testament. Come on.
Like Zeb. Yea, all their princes as Zebah and Zalmunna.
Like Zebah and Zalmunna. Come on.
Who said,
what did all these nations say?
let us take to ourselves the house of the Most High in possession.
What did they say?
Let us take to ourselves the houses of the Most High in possession.
They took the promised land when we fell. A conspiracy to hide who the holy people are. Scattered through slavery, oppression, racism, commerce, poverty, and displacement. We're still here, brothers and sisters. The real Jews are still here. That's what they say. But David is praying this prayer. So let's look at how they did that. So we're going to look back to this history book now. It's talking about the Umayyad. You're still reading here, right?
Promises and revolts.
Yes, promises and revolt. Let's read that.
This is still from the last 2 million years. Promises and revolt. Syria remained a part of the Ottoman Empire until the end of the First World War. During the war, Britain had promised Syria, Arab nationalists, their freedom from Turkey if the Allies won. But under the secret Sykes-Picot Agreement, which is
secret Sykes-Picot Agreement,
secret Asia Minor Agreement.
Come on.
The British government had also pledged the country as a French sphere of influence.
Let's read that what the Sykes-Picot Agreement is, should we? Right here. Let's pick it up from here. This is the Sykes-Picot Agreement. Come on.
The Sykes-Picot Agreement, officially known as the Asia Minor Agreement, was a secret secret agreement between the governments of the United Kingdom and France.
Come on.
With the assent of Russia.
That's when Russia became powerful. Come on.
Defining the proposed sphere of influence and control in the Middle East.
Russia has a stake in the Middle East. It's all about who's going to control those regions. Go ahead.
Should the triple intent succeed in defeating the Ottoman Empire during the World War I.
We saw how the place was under the control of the World War I. Go ahead.
The negotiation of the treaty occurred between November 1915 and March 1916. The agreement was concluded on 16th May 1916.
Come on.
In the agreement effectively divided the Arab provinces of the Ottoman Empire outside the Arabian Peninsula into areas of future British and French control or influences.
Under the what?
Future British and French control or influences.
So those French, the Edomites, are going to be controlling those areas and dividing up with the Arab who saw there. Ishmaelites and Edom, the leaders of this world. Continue.
The terms were negotiated by the French diplomat François Georges Picot and British Sir Mark Sykes.
Come on.
The Russian Tsarist government was a minor party to the Sykes-Picot Agreement.
Come on.
And when, following the Russian Revolution of October 1917, the Bolsheviks exposes the agreement, the British were embarrassed. the Arabs dismayed, and the Turks, the Turks delighted. Britain was allotted control of areas roughly comprising the coastal strips between the sea and the River Jordan, Jordan and South Iraq, and a small area including the ports of Haifa and Acre
Go ahead.
to allow access to the Mediterranean. France was allocated control of southeastern Turkey.
See that?
They're
They're dividing the world. That's what it tells in the book of Joel. They got all the shape. The world you're looking at is shaped based on Western European conquest. It tells you that in the book of, let's read that right here, in Wisdom of Solomon. Second Esdras. Second Esdras, he tells you that Esau is the end of the world. They are the empires that are going to be controlling, that will be controlling the world. So, but our people have been suffering because we fell, because the problem with our people is that we are disobedient to the Most High. Let's read that here. Verse 7. Given the book, chapter and verse.
Second Ezra,
6.
chapter 6, verse 7. Then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times? Or when shall be the end of the first, and the beginning of it that followeth?
See that? What is going to be the thing to separate the world that we're living in? This world that we are and the new world that is to come, promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
And he said,
and when is going to be the end of this world and the beginning of it that followeth? Come on.
And he said unto me,
what did he say?
From Abraham unto Isaac.
From Abraham, the time of Abraham unto Isaac.
When Jacob and Esau were born of them.
Where Jacob and Esau were born of them, fraternal twin. Esau is the father of the Caucasian. Jacob is the father of the Negroes, the North American Indians, and the Latinos. Were born of them. What happened?
Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau.
Jacob, that's what the name means, to hook onto. Jacob's hand, Jacob's hand, held first the heel of Esau. What does that mean?
For Esau is the end of the world.
The Caucasian or European civilization, and their father is Edom, according to the Bible, it came out read all over, is the what?
The end of the world.
They are the empires that will be controlling the world at the end times, before Christ shows up. Exactly what we've been reading in history, how they're dividing everything and making treaties and controlling everything. Geography and politics and economics and the financial, machinery, industrial complexes. For Esau is what?
The end of the world.
The European powers are going to be the people running the world at the end of the world.
And Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth.
But after this Western civilization, we get to rise for rulership. Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. We are the one get to rule this world, the kingdom of Christ, if we can only keep his commandments and walk in righteousness and true purity and wisdom, and committed to get back to this true battle to wake both Jews and Gentiles. This is not just for our people. These are for all true loving people of the world. This goes for all the people that want to see Christ come. They want to see righteousness restored. True peace. This is the kingdom that was promised to the poor, where the righteous, both Jews and Gentiles, will enjoy. That's what he's telling you here. Esau is the end of the world. So continue now.
Okay, so we're going back to the Picot's agreement.
Go ahead.
The controlling powers were left free to decide on state boundaries within these areas. Further negotiations was expected to determine international administration pending consultations with Russia and other powers, including the sheriffs of Mecca.
You see that? So you have the sheriffs of Mecca, the Ishmaelites, and Russia under the Bolshevik regime, which is what can also are Edomites, and then breaking all the deals, just like they negotiated the whole world amongst themselves. It's amazing. Amazing. But there's something about this agreement that I want to show. I want to point out.
Following the outbreak of World War I.
Following the outbreak of World War I. Watch this now.
Zionism was first discussed at a British cabinet level on 9 November 1914.
You see that? Zionism is a European Western Union agenda to bring Russians or Eastern Europeans that are already converted to our custom, taking on our identity, begin to master our language in the what they call Caspian Sea. These people were actually called there was a Hunnish Turkic tribe called the Khazars in Khazaria, right there in the Caspian Sea, a major conversion into Judaism that took over because we begin to scatter into Africa in 580. From 586 BC, our last stand in Jerusalem was in 70 AD under the hand of the Romans. At the same time, when all this stuff was going on in Syria by the Romans, they also conquered us. They conquered all these areas. Now, you're looking at our people now totally displaced and the land taken over, left desolate. Now you have these people now who already converted, and now they're planning on how to bring the Zionist regime to establish the state of Israel in Jerusalem at our expense. Let's read it again.
Following the outbreak of World War I, Zionism was first discussed at a British cabinet level on 9 November 1914.
Come on.
4 days after Britain's declaration of war on the Ottoman Empire.
You see that? Because now the British are going to take down the Ottoman Empire, take over those whole territory now, declaring this war. Come on.
At a cabinet meeting, David Lloyd George, Chancellor of the Exchequer, referred to the ultimate destiny of Palestine, Lord George's law.
So now they begin to discuss the destiny of the promised land. Because now we're no longer in the land.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Lord George's law firm, it is called law firm, Lloyd George, Robert and Co. has been engaged a decade before the Zionists to work on the British Uganda program.
You see that? Because the original land where they wanted to put the Zionists was in Uganda. In fact, a lot of them moved to Uganda in East Africa, because that's where they actually wanted to put this so-called state of European convert Israelis, the fake Israelis. They were supposed to be in Uganda. Go ahead.
In a discussion after the meeting with the fellow Zionist Herbert Samuel, who had a seat in the cabinet as president of the local government board, Lloyd George assured him that he was very keen to see a Jewish state established in Palestine.
He was very keen to see a what?
A Jewish state established in Palestine.
These are false convert Jews. We have histories, historical records. This is a book called The Chosen People from the Caucasus, and written by Michael Bradley, letting you know that these people, cultures, that Jewish people actually came from the Caucasus Mountains of Georgia, Russia. They are not Israelites at all. They are converts. You have another book written by Shlomo Sand. It's called The Invention of the Jewish People. Now, we're not saying this to derail anyone. We're just saying this as a historical fact. Everybody knows they're not the real Jews if you know true world history. This one was written by Shlomo Sand, a history professor currently now in Tel Aviv University, letting you know that they're not the real Jews. The conflict is about Zion and our land. The controversy of Zion is the burden of Syria and all these nations that you see going on right now. When we get a chance, we're going to go into these books. We also have 13 Tribe by Arthur Koestler. We have many books written on this stuff with true world-class historians that know what's really going on. Here they are negotiating how they're going to bring these converts into Jerusalem. Come on.
Lloyd George assured him that he was very keen to see a Jewish state established in Palestine.
While the real Jews are being carried off into slavery, they already went through slavery since the 13th century, from the Arab slave trade to the 18th century, when they so-called abolished slavery. Now here comes these people by the 19th century begin to bring the false Jews to establish the so-called state of Israel. Now they wanted to do that in Uganda, which is very interesting because as you know, the influx of Israelites, Uganda is very close over there. A lot of Israelites fled into East Africa too. And I feel like if they can come close over there, we can always make ourselves back into Palestine. We need to have our foot in those regions around Jerusalem. So if we're close out there, eventually, watching events develop, we're going to make our way back into Jerusalem because it was already prophesied that Satan will be ruling out of Jerusalem with his people. Go ahead.
Samuel then outlined the Zionist position more fully in a conversation with Foreign Secretary Edward Gray.
Go ahead.
He spoke of Zionist aspirations for the establishment in Palestine of a Jewish state.
Of a what?
A Jewish state.
A people wishing that they are the real Jews, but they're not. That's what Christ talked about in Revelation chapter 2, verse 9. And them that say they are Jews and are not. Christ said it, I didn't say it, but are the synagogue of Satan. But the real Jews are suffering in poverty. Come on.
Of a Jewish state and of the importance of its geographical position to the British Empire.
Come on.
Samuel's memoir states, I mentioned in an open quote, I mentioned that two things would be essential that the state should be neutralized, since it could not be large enough to define itself, and that the free access of Christian pilgrims should be granted.
See there, because there's a lot of Christians now believe the false doctrine now of Christ, but they want some level of pilgrimage that they can always come over there to see the historical areas where the real Christ and his people actually lived. Go ahead.
I also said it would be a great advantage if the remainder of Syria were annexed by France.
The remainder of Syria were what?
Annexed by France.
Was actually put or fixed with France, controlled by the French. Go ahead.
As it would be far better for the state to have a European power as neighbors than the Turks.
You see that?
Quote.
So they want the French to be closer to them than who?
The Turks.
Like the Turkey. See how they help each other, Edomites. Go ahead.
Then the same evening, Prime Minister H.H. Asquith announced that the dismemberment of the Turkish Empire have become a war aimed in a speech at the Lord Mayor's banquet. In January 1915, Samuel submitted a Zionist memorandum entitled The Future of Palestine.
The Future of Palestine, that's a plan, an agreement that how they're going to take over those lands. Exactly how they took it over. Go ahead.
The Future of Palestine to the cabinet after discussing with Wiseman and Lloyd George.
Now Wiseman is Jewish. Man, it's amazing. This is a meticulous plan on how they're going to take over our land, and a secret agreement. And you also have the Balfour Declaration Treaty. Go ahead.
On 5th February 1915, Samuel had another discussion with Gray. Open quote. When I asked him what his solution was, he said it may be possible to neutralize the country under international guarantee, and to vest the government of the country in some kind of council to be established by the Jews.
To be what?
To be established by the Jews.
Now these are not the real Jews. These are the convert Jews that will be brought into the land. Go ahead.
After further conversation with Lloyd, George, and Gray, Samuel calculated a revised text to the cabinet in the middle of March 1915.
Go ahead.
Zionism or the Jewish question were not considered by the report of the Bonson Committee prepared to determine British and wartime policy toward the Ottoman Empire, submitted in June 1915. Prior to the departure of Sykes to meet Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Sazonov in Petrograd on 27 February 1916, they said, Sykes was approached with a plan by Samuel. The plan put forward by Samuel was in form of a memorandum which Skytes thought prudent to commit to memory and destroy. It says, commenting on it, Skyte wrote to Samuel suggesting that if Belgium...
Okay, let's go to the conflict. Are you down here?
Yeah, the conflict.
Yeah, come down to the conflict. Let's go straight to the point.
This is the conflicting promises.
The conflicting promises. Go ahead.
Lord Curzon said the great powers were still committed to the regalement organic agreement regarding the Lebanon Vignette of June 1861 and September 1864, and that the rights granted to France in the blue area under the Sykes-Picot Agreement were not compatible with the agreement. The greatest source of conflict was the Balfour Declaration 1917. Lord Balfour wrote a memorandum from the Paris Peace Conference, which stated that the other allies had implicitly rejected the Sykes-Picot Agreement by...
See that? So they rejected the Sykes-Picot Agreement, but they don't make the Balfour Declaration. Let's show you this history about the British program. We're still reading about the British program. Let's read this right here.
The history?
Still talking about the Sykes-Picot Agreement. Let's read that.
The offer was first made by British Colonial Secretary Joseph Chamberlain to Theodore Herzl's Zionist group in 1903.
So the whole plan was being controlled by the Zionists, who are the people that want to rule the world, that are behind all this war going on in the world today. Come on.
He offered 5,000 square miles, 13,000 kilometers of the Mawa Plateau.
The Mawa Plateau.
In what is today known as Kenya and Uganda.
That's where the Jewish Zionist state was supposed to be built, not in Jerusalem. Come on.
The offer was a response to pogroms against the Jews in Russia.
These are the fake Jews in where?
In Russia.
Convert Jews in Caspian Sea that already converted, while the real Jews are forgotten, lost their identity, has already been discontinued from their heritage. These are Europeans now. That's why the conflict is raging in the Middle East. That they're going to be bringing these Russians in Africa. But no, watch what happens. Come on.
The response to pogroms against the Jewish in Russia, and it was hoped that the area could be a refuge from persecution for the Jewish people. The idea was brought to the Zionist Congress at its sixth meeting in 1903.
Now you see how they are so organized. They even have a Congress. They got financial empire. They already infiltrated Russia during the Bolshevik regime. They understand the rulership that are really controlled about the world, while the real Jews have been totally destroyed and eradicated. And
cut off from being a nation.
Cut off, and we're not even together anymore. Now they control the whole world. They're making all the plan and decisions. Amazing. Very organized. We can never organize. We're so divided as a people. We can even put shoes together with one family. We'll fight. But they know the agenda. Go ahead.
There, a fierce debate ensued. The African land was described as an antechamber to the Holy Land.
The African life was described as a what?
The African land was described as an antechamber to the Holy Land.
Come on.
And a
Nastasil
or
temporal high shelter. So they know that they can actually be in Africa. Because they know, they wanted to be in Africa for a temporary period of time and now begin to make their way back to Palestine. This was a plan from the beginning. Amazing. Go ahead.
But other groups felt that accepting the offer would make it more difficult to establish a Jewish state in Ottoman Palestine.
You see that? It's because the Ottomans were controlling Palestine at the time. Before the British would take them down. That's why they're making this agreement with the British government that they're going to take that land, which they eventually did through the Balfour Declaration or the Balfour Treaty. Go ahead.
And also that the Jewish nation would not be able to claim itself as a native to that land.
Go ahead.
Since there were no historic or culture group, links
Since there were no historic or cultural link
between the Hebrews and the East Africa.
You see that? They know that, and there's no historical link between the Russian convert Jews and Palestine.
That's right.
Yes. It's amazing how they think these things. Come on.
Before the vote of the matter, the Russian delegate stormed out in opposition.
The Russian delegate, they rushed out. They were upset. These are Russian convert Jews that are trying to get Jerusalem. These are the people that are going to be bringing back after World War II, the Second World War with Hitler. This is an orchestration to take over our land. Go ahead.
By a remaining vote of 295 to 177.
And they're voting on these issues. Go ahead.
It was decided to send an investigatory commission on expedition to examine the territory proposed.
So they're going to go look at Uganda and Kenya to see what it looks like. Go ahead.
The next year, a 3-man delegation was sent to inspect the plateau.
They went over there to inspect the plateau in Uganda and Kenya.
Its high elevation gave it a temperate climate, making it suitable for Europeans' settlement.
Come on. However,
the observers found a dangerous land filled with lions and other creatures.
See that? Go ahead.
Moreover, although it was sparsely populated by small bands of Maasai
people, come on, who are the true Africans, come on,
themselves having recently conquered
the Syriac tribe.
The Syriac tribe. The Maasai were hostile to other tribes and outsiders.
They could have destroyed them as well. So they are afraid of the Maasai people. They were warriors. This is their land. See how they disregard you and take over your land. They can just come in and do whatever they want. Because they got the control of the world in their hand. They know that they are running the world. Go ahead.
After receiving this report, the following Congress in 1905 decided to politely decline the British offer.
So they politely did what?
Declined the British offer.
Come on.
Some
fake Jews, which are the convert Jews, not the real Jews, come on,
viewed this as a mistake.
Why?
They then split from the ZO and established the Jewish Territorialist Organization.
Come on.
With the explicit aim of establishing a Jewish state anywhere, not just a Palestine. If few Jewish did move to Kenya, but most settled in the urban centers. Some of these families remain to this day.
You see that? And I know some of the people that are European in Kenya. I say, how are these Europeans in Kenya? It's just the historical truth. We're reading plain history. Amazing. And that's going to lead to the Balfour Declaration. The Balfour Declaration. So now, finish up down here where you have, this is where you left off, pick it up.
Promises and revolt. Syria remained a part of the Ottoman Empire until the end of the First World War. During the war, Britain had promised Syria Arab nationalists their freedom from the Turkey if the Allies won. But under the secret Sykes-Picot Agreement,
you see that? The secret Sykes-Picot Agreement, what happened?
The British government had also pledged the country as a French sphere of influence.
Come on.
In 1920, the French drove out the nationalists, and the League of Nations gave France a mandate over Syria. In 1925, Damascus rose in revolt, and the French had to bombard the city into submission.
You see that?
The Syrians,
the French bombarded the city into submission. Come on.
The Syrians were promised independence in 1936, but only in 1946 was full independence finally achieved.
Come on.
Independence and after. From 1946, the country suffered a succession of military and political coups.
So starting from that time now, in 1946, now they're going through military coup. This is a nation that has been totally in disarray, religiously and also ethnically, because of the activity of all this conquest parading through that place. Because Syria is geographically located between Middle East and Europe. So anything that travels from Middle East to Africa, north and left and right, moving through Syria into Europe, you gotta come through that area. All the military roll through that area, just like they roll through Jerusalem. a very strategic position. Go ahead.
Military and political coups. Between 1958 and 1961, it was part of the United Arab Republic under Egypt's President Nasser.
Come on.
Syria forces took part in the Arab-Israeli War of 1948, 1956, 1967, and 1973.
Go ahead.
Syria lost the strategically valuable Golan Heights to Israeli in 1967.
See there? They lost the what?
They lost the strategically valuable Golan Heights to Israeli in 1967.
See there? So they finally managed to, by 1948 they brought the Israelis. So now they've been in conflict with Syria. Because they competed with the Golan Heights. Who's going to control that area? And America and the Western Europeans supported Israeli, not the real Israelites, but the fake Israeli converts now that took over the land to control those areas now. Go ahead.
And won them back at the start of the 1973 war.
Come on.
But the heights were later retaken by the Israelis.
You see there? Israelis always in battle with these modern day Syrians. Go ahead.
Syrian politics have been dominated since 1963 by the ideology of the Ba'ath Party, which advocates socialist revolution,
which goes against democracy. Go ahead.
Throughout the Arab world. In 1966, Nureddin al-Atassi seized power. He himself was ousted in 1970, and Hafez al-Assad became president.
Al-Assad became what?
President in 1971.
And this is going to be the father of Assad that's fighting right now in Syria. We just came through the history full circle. This Assad that is fighting, he's been fighting against his people, against the Israeli regime. So when I was in college, I studied politics as well and economics. They call Syria a rogue nation, just like Iran. Everyone that opposes that has a socialist agenda that does not line up, because now Iran is linked up with Syria, with their biggest ally. We will read that in modern politics now. So see how this war has been raging. These are Edomites fighting over the control of some are Muslims. The Mosai has sent a conflict among the nations. So now, let's get into the conflict, into the Bible now. Isaiah chapter 17. Well, these are the two key. The Mosai is causing the nations to fight. Isaiah chapter 34, verse 1. Let's read that. Isaiah chapter 34, verse 1.
Isaiah 34, verse 1, and it reads, Come near, ye nations.
Come here, ye what?
Ye nations.
The nations are the races, the Gentile nation, non-Israelites that has been ruling since we fell. The Most High said, draw nigh, ye nations.
To hear, and hearken, ye people.
And hearken, all ye people.
Let the earth hear.
Let the earth hear.
And all that is therein.
Come on.
The world and all things that come forth of it.
Go ahead.
For the indignation of the Most High is upon all nations.
The anger of the the anger of the Most High is against all these Gentile governments. Why?
And his fury upon all their armies.
His anger is upon their what?
Armies.
Their military. They must come to fight in Jerusalem. He's sending this nation, he sent the conflict amongst them, that they're going to fight to break their empires. His fury upon all their armies. Go ahead.
He had utterly destroyed them. He had delivered them to slaughter.
He had delivered them to what?
To slaughter.
This is the world war that is about to rage. Come on.
Their slain also shall be cast out, and their stink shall come up out of their carcasses.
Their stink shall come out of their what?
Carcasses.
Out of their carcasses. You see there? Bodies dead. Listen, when you look at what, they're not even showing you CNN what's going on in Syria right now. You have people that are lined up and being shot on their head. Pop, 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 pop. But you're going to find out who's behind these wars. Who's behind the death and destruction in Syria right now. We're going to show you that. By the death, the war in Syria is going to lead to the liberation. Keep your hand there. Let's read that history real quick. In current events now. Benghazi. Let me get this article. This is a military general, U.S. military general, saying that the war in Syria is going to trigger a World War III. That's what they understand, and that's exactly what the Bible is describing. We have an article here. Let's read this article here. It says, read the title. This is from the Washington Free Beacon magazine. It says General Martin Dempsey warns U.S. intervention in Syria will trigger wider war. This is the General Martin Dempsey letting you know that, but U.S. is already involved in the war. They are behind this war. The European powers, Edom, is controlling all these wars. Well, that's what he's not telling you, but he does not want to come down to show that they are actually now physically supporting it. But they've
always been involved.
The covert wars. We're going to look at that now. Let's read it down.
U.S. military interventions in Syria on behalf of Syrian rebels fighting the Bashar al-Assad regime risk embroiling the United States and states in the region in a wider conflict.
You see that? In a wider conflict. Go ahead.
The chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff said in a letter to Congress, Army General Martin Dempsey provided a mainly negative assessment of U.S. military interventions and warned that joining the war in Syria could assist Islamist extremists, help them gain access to chemical weapons, and further erode U.S. military readiness, already suffering from sharp defense budget cuts.
Because they did cut their defense budget, but they've already have enough to fund their wars, because they got military stretched thin. Go on.
Using forces is no less than an act of war, Dempsey stated in the July 19th letter, adding that any use of force should be based on confidence that it will achieve the U.S. policy of ousting the Assad regime.
Ousting the what?
The Assad regime.
Because the Assad regime is lined up with who? Iran. So you have Saudi Arabia that's lined up, which is the house of Ishmael, lined up with the house of East, or the 10 horns, the European powers and the United Nations and the United States, working together to topple Iran and Syria, because Syria, even though they're Muslim now, that was taken down by the Umayyad and the Ottoman Empire, they actually understand the agenda. They have been fighting this war for a long time against the Israeli occupation in Jerusalem. These are the conflicts that the Most High sent amongst the nations. They are divided. Iran, Syria, called a rogue nation, and then you see Israeli, the United Nations, US, and the EU working on one hand to destabilize Middle East and set up their one world government. And the Dempseys want it so that they don't want to show a physical overarching hand, but they're already there because they are the ones that are funded. We want to look at that. That's the general warning about a greater, wider war. And guess what? That's what the Bible shows. We're going to read that out of the Bible. Here, let's read this one. And a brief article, I'm going to make it. I'm not going to go into detail. If you want, I'm going to send you this article later on. But I want to look at this one too. It talks about how they've been involved in this war. Let's read this one. Whistleblower exclusive. Benghazi cover up in the proxy battle with the war in Iran. Let's read this one real quick.
The immediate concern for the Obama administration after the attack in Benghazi was to cover up the connection with Iran and Syria to answer al-Sharia and Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, AQIM, according to the Benghazi whistleblower source. It says the attack in Benghazi that killed 4 Americans, including Ambassador Christopher Stevens, was not a terrorist attack. It was a nation-state attack, an escalation of war, and an opening of a new front in the tit-for-tat conflict with Iran and by extension their proxy partner Russia, that is now being fought in Syria.
That is now being what?
Fought in Syria.
So the war in Syria, which we saw in history that Russia has always been down with Syria, that's why they supported them for a long time. Proxy war and Syria with Russia and Iran are lined up in one hand against United Nations, the EU, US, and now you have America in this conflict. No, this is by you just realizing that this is not having to do with terrorist attack. It has to do with Bible prophecy. It has nothing to do with terrorist attack, absolutely at all. That's a cover-up. That's a diversion. The real event is happening and people are not paying attention. Go ahead.
For anyone who thinks Americans will be told that Benghazi was a nation-state attack by ex-CIA chief David Petraeus in the near future.
Don't worry about that, because he's going to go in to talk about David Petraeus. He's going to go into the David Petraeus was the general of U.S. general as well.
That was turned into a CIA director.
Let's read this. Hillary Clinton and the cover-up. Because you're going to find out that they've always worked together to send military ammunition. They send military ammunition to take down Libya. They send military ammunition to take down Gaddafi. We saw that in Libya. Now, they also, the same people that was called to be Al-Qaeda are the same people that they're actually funding to fight now in Syria against Assad regime. And this is the real cover-up. Let's read a little bit on that.
Hillary Clinton and the cover-up. If you don't address the Iranian and Syrian connections to the nation-state attack in Benghazi, you cannot get to the Clintons. Hillary's starring role is definitely in the Benghazi cover-up, because 9 months later, it still has not been officially confirmed whether Ambassador Christopher Stevens was wearing his State Department hat on his, or his CIA hat at the time when he was murdered.
So because he was also a CIA agent, that was also an ambassador, so they don't know what he's there for, because he was actually in cahoots with the people on the ground. He understands what's going on the ground.
Right.
The reason why they actually killed, because they were funneling. There's a lot of stuff going on over there that they haven't told the people. Go ahead.
So they don't know whether he was acting as a CIA agent or acting as an ambassador.
Go ahead.
You know, what is undeniable is Hillary was one of the first top administrative officials to publicly, falsely blame the YouTube video. She, with President Obama, appeared in a paid advertisement costing $70,000 to disavow the YouTube video that aired in Pakistan.
You see, that's their diversionary story. But let's get to the point here, where he talks about what the war is really about. The next time someone, be it in the media, President Obama or Secretary of State John Kerry, or member of the Congress like the insurable Senator John McCain, says the U.S. needs to overthrow Syria, President Assad, or for humanitarian purposes, ask them what they think will happen next. Are they really so stupid to actually believe that freedom and democracy, unicorn peace and lollipops will take over Syria after Assad is removed, or will another vacuum be created for the Muslim Brotherhood to fill, a vacuum that will be filled by massive bloodshed, ethnic cleansing, genocide that could set the entire region on fire? with America and NATO troops being dragged into to serve the interests of someone else who are using American military might to create the United States of Islam. You already can see it happening in Tunisia, Egypt, and Libya. They're changing the whole region. They're actually taking over the whole area and bringing down to establish the Jewish Zionists and the control of the Western powers over those regions. It was all a plan to take down Syria. They systematically wanted to go into Iraq, Afghanistan. From Afghanistan, they went into where? They went into Libya, where Tunisia, Libya, Egypt. Libya now, after Libya now, they're going into Syria. They take down Syria, now comes Iran. These are all wars that are planned to destabilize the whole Middle East, but this is going to lead to the greater war. That's what the general warns about, and that's what says the Bible says here. So we're going to read in the Bible. We have Second Ezra. Before we go to Second Ezra, let's read. Let's finish Isaiah where you are. Let's go to Isaiah
34.
Chapter 34.
Verse 3.
Hold on one second. Isaiah chapter 34 verse 1, right? Where did you stop off?
Oh, verse 3, but let me read verse 2 again.
Okay, before you go to Isaiah now, let's finish with let's go to Isaiah chapter 17, because it shows you what's going on in Libya in this area right now. Isaiah chapter 17 verse 1.
Isaiah chapter 17 verse 1. The burden of Damascus.
The burden of what?
Damascus.
The burden of Damascus, Aram or Syria. This is the capital city of Aram, the Arameans. We saw how they've been taken over, and these are the same people competing for global conquest to destabilize, the Middle East for the Zionist state. The burden of Damascus. Go ahead.
The burden of Damascus. Behold, Damascus is taken away from being a city.
Damascus is taken away from what?
Being a city.
Being a city. This has not happened yet. It has always been taken over, but has never been taken away from ever being a city. This prophecy has not been fulfilled yet. Go ahead.
And it shall be a ruins of heap.
And it shall be a what?
A ruins of heap.
It's going to be a ruinous heap. This is the war that's about to rage over there. After when this war finally explodes, it's going to be a ruinous heap in Damascus. This is the future prophecy, the destiny of what's going to happen to this place when it finally explodes. Go ahead.
The cities of Aroer are forsaken.
The city of what?
Aroer are forsaken.
Aroer. The word Aroer means naked. That's actually in Igbo. We named all these places are forsaken, and that's what it means. It's naked and forsaken.
Yeah.
It's naked and forsaken. It's a future destination. Did you read that in Hebrew?
Yeah.
Thank you. What does it say in Hebrew? Nudity is naked. Go ahead.
They shall be for flocks which shall lie down, and none shall make them afraid.
Come on.
The fortress also shall cease from Ephraim, and the kingdoms from Damascus.
The fortress shall cease from Ephraim, and the kingdom from where?
Damascus.
It has already ceased from Ephraim, because the Ephraimite, the northern kingdom, was right there next to them. That has already been fulfilled, and it's been going on how they've been displaced, but eventually the whole area will cease to exist. That's what he's telling you. Go ahead.
And the kingdom from Damascus, and the remnant of Syria, they shall be as the glory of the children of Israel, said Ahiah of hosts.
Come on.
And in that day,
what day? The day of the Most High. What will happen?
It shall come to pass that the glory of Jacob shall be made thin.
Come on.
And the fatness of his flesh shall wax lean.
Exactly what we've been going through. We've been made lean all these years. We're no longer in Jerusalem. Our glory is no more there. And that's why all these powers have been doing all this stuff. But if Ephraimites has been gone, the Puerto Ricans, the Mexicans, the North American Indians, they already left. Damascus has been pillaged down, leading to the final conflict that's going to destroy the whole area. Go ahead.
And it shall be as when a harvestman gathereth the corn,
Come on.
and reapeth the ears with his arm. And it shall be as he that gathereth ears in the valley of Rephaim.
In the valley of what?
Rephaim.
Come on.
Yet gleaning grapes shall be left in it, as the shakes of an olive tree.
When you shake up an olive tree, it's just going to be very few remaining. This is after this collapse. This is the conflict that we're about to go in there. That's what all these wars are going to lead into. Go ahead.
2 or 3 berries in the top of the uppermost bough, 4 or 5 in the utmost fruit branches thereof, said Ahiah of hosts of Israel.
The power of Israelites, our God, the power of the Igbos. Come on.
At that day shall a man look for his maker, and his eyes shall have respect to the Holy One of Israel.
When this thing happens, the world will begin to respect the Most High. This is what's shaping up over there in Middle East. Come on.
And he shall not look to the altars, the works of his hand, neither shall he respect that which his fingers have made, either the groves or images.
You see that? Because all these areas that are replete with paganism, we have Islam, we have false Christianity that is all written in those areas. Then you have the indigenous paganism, then you have the Roman influences in all these places, and the Grecian influences. All these idolatries are going to be rid of in those areas. Come on.
In that day shall his strong city be as a forsaken ball, and as uppermost branch, which they have left because of the children of Israel.
Why are all these things happening?
Because of the children of Israel.
All this war is happening because of what?
Because of the children of Israel.
Because of the controversy of Zion. Those whole areas are going down because Israel must rise. Go ahead.
And there shall be this desolation.
And there shall be a what?
Desolation.
So this wars heading in all this area. We saw the same thing. A lot of these regional wars is leading to those children that are giving rulership to rise back again. Go ahead.
Because thou hast forgotten the Alahayim of thy salvation, and hast not been mindful of the rock of thy strength. Therefore shalt thou plant pleasant plants, and shalt set it with strange slips. In the day shalt thou make thy plant to grow, in the morning shalt thou make thy seed to flourish, but the harvest shall be a heap in the day of grief and desperate sorrow.
In the day of heap and desperate sorrow. Desperation is coming. In fact, it's already happening there right now. Over millions of people have been killed. Millions has already been displaced. And people don't understand the hand of the Western powers that are actually influencing and controlling all this stuff. Sending their missiles, they're sending weapons. Now, the Congress negotiated to send weapons to Al-Qaeda, the network that they say was fighting in Afghanistan. But now that's what they're using to fight against Assad regime right now. How could you use Al-Qaeda to actually fight your wars that you say were responsible for September 11th? This is what the psychology, the truth of what's really going on in the world is. People don't even understand what's going on. The secret agreement that's really going on. Come on.
It says, woe to the multitude of people, which make a noise like the noise of the seas, and to the rushing of nations, that make a rushing like the rushing of the mighty waters.
So the whole world is going to see when this war finally explodes, full circle. And it looks like it's nearer, because we saw another oracle where it said that this war is going to last longer. But they're trying to manage it as a crisis. But when this thing explodes, Russia is pulled in, Iran is pulled in, here comes Syria, and then this whole thing could actually explode and impact the whole world right now. The whole world is going to be hearing it. That's why I say what? Woe to what?
Woe to the multitude of the many people.
Destruction and sorrow to the multitude of many people, which make noise like the noise of the sea, and to the rushing of the nation that make a rushing like the rushing of the mighty waters. Come on.
The nations shall rush like the rushing of many waters, but the Most High shall rebuke them.
The Most High shall what?
Rebuke them.
Come on.
And they shall flee far off, and shall be chased as the chaff of the mountain before the wind, and like a rolling things before the whirlwind.
Come on.
And behold, at evening tide trouble, and before the And behold, at eventide trouble, and before the morning he is not. This is the portion of them that spoil us, and the lot of them that rob us.
This is the portion of them that
spoil us.
The people that have exploited the 12 tribes of Israel, that set up empires and governments, and kept our peoples worldwide poor and hid the true record of history. This is their portion. They're all going to be in toil, sorrow, and pain. The whole world will be impacted when this thing finally explodes. And we're looking at it right now. It's happening as we speak. This is what's really going on over there. Let's jump down to Isaiah chapter 30. Jeremiah. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 49, verse 23 to 27. Jeremiah is Jeremiah in the Hebrew, in English. Chapter 49, verse 23. Jeremiah, still speaking about the burden of Damascus or Syria, which is the Arameans or Aram. Chapter 39. Chapter what?
49, verse 23.
Verse 23, right? Let's read that.
Concerning Damascus.
Concerning what?
Damascus.
Syria, the city, capital city of Damascus, is Damascus. Go ahead.
Hamath is confounded.
Hamath is what?
Is confounded.
Go ahead.
And Arpad. And Arpad, for they have heard evil tidings.
For they have heard evil news. Exactly what's been going on right now. There are confusion in Syria right now, but they're not showing it to you on CNN, really. You gotta go to YouTube and look at people shooting personal videos and posting the massive deaths that's going on right now. And people are comfortable, don't even understand that it's coming right here. It's coming right to roost at home. Because our government here has funded these wars and these terrorists, the true terrorists, to displace people, because this is the war that Satan is funding through the same Zionists and the power structures controlling the world. Read it.
It says, they have heard evil tidings. They are faint-hearted. There is sorrow.
There is what?
Sorrow.
Come on
the sea.
Go ahead.
It cannot be quiet.
It cannot be quiet. Verse 24.
Damascus is waxed feeble.
Damascus is waxed feeble, meaning that it's aged, it's fallen apart. Come on.
And turneth herself to flee.
Go ahead.
And fear hath seized on her. Anguish and sorrows have taken her as a woman in travail.
And that's what's going on right now. People have displaced to Jordan. People have displaced to Turkey. People have been displaced across all the regions over there as we're speaking. People left their homes. People are reporting. Go to YouTube. They're reporting how they can't even be in their homes anymore. You have war raging right now. And who's behind the war? The 10 horns, which is the European Union and NATO. And then you have America, the little horn, against Assad, which is Syria, supported by who? Iran, their biggest ally. And finally, Russia. CNN won't tell you what's really going on. Go ahead.
25. How is the city of praise not left, the city of my joy? Therefore, her young men shall fall in her streets.
Her young men shall what?
Fall in her streets.
It's happening exactly right there, and it will get worse. And the general warned that this is going to explode into a wider war, so they want to manage it. But this is intended because it's going to go on as Bible prophecy. Go ahead.
And all the men of war shall be cut off in that day, said Ahijah of old.
It's happening. Come on.
And I will kindle a fire in the wall of Damascus.
I will kindle a fire in the what?
In the wall of Damascus.
Come on.
And it shall consume the places of Ben-Hadad.
Of Ben-Hadad that used to fight against us, that were Assad, they are still controlling those regions. Amazing. The Bible is the only true book that can show you what's really going on in Syria right now. Let's go now to the book of Isaiah now. Isaiah chapter... Well, before you go to Isaiah, let's go to 2nd Ezra chapter 16. 2nd Ezra chapter 16. I have it. Did you hear? Huh? 2nd Ezra chapter 16. 2nd Ezra chapter 16. We're almost done. It's important to understand that all these wars is because of the controversy of Zion. Verse 1. Second Ezra chapter 16 verse 1. The whole Ezra chapter 15 tells you how the war in Middle East is going to explode. Say, behold, clouds from the east and from the north unto the south, and are very terrible to look upon, full of wrath and storm. It's talking about the war in the Middle East that is shaping it up, that everybody's paying attention to see how this thing is going to escalate.
Chapter 16, verse 1.
Chapter 16, XVI, verse 1. So now, you're going to see how this war is going to lead to fall of Western civilization for our kingdom to come. Let's read it.
Second Ezra chapter 16, verse 1, and it reads, Woe be unto thee, Babylon.
Woe be unto you what?
Babylon.
America, Western civilization.
And Asia.
And Asia, China, that are actually in cahoots with them, because this war is going to lead to their rulership to fall. Come on.
Woe be unto thee, Egypt.
What is going on in Egypt right now? Revolt is going on in Egypt. It's been happening in Egypt. You saw the same thing happen in Tunisia. Those areas are significant in Bible prophecy. Come on.
Woe be unto thee, Egypt and Syria.
And what?
And Syria.
And what?
And Syria.
And Syria. Woe means sorrow and destruction.
And shame.
And shame. Syria, come on.
Gird up yourselves with cloths of sack and hair. Bewail your children.
Bewail your children.
And be sorry.
Why?
For your destruction is at hand.
The destruction is here. When you begin to see how they move to all these different geographic locations, and here comes Syria, destruction is at hand. Come on.
A sword is sent upon you.
The Most High is speaking. What?
A sword is sent upon you.
Come on.
And who may turn it back?
Who's going to change this, reverse the cycle? The Most High is behind this wars. Why? Because he opened the veil. Keep your hands there. Go to Revelation chapter 5 to show you how the Most High allowed events to happen after the death of Christ that will open a veil or a seal for all these wars that will lead to our kingdom coming. Revelation. The book of Revelation chapter 5 verse 1, I believe.
Yep.
Well, read Revelation chapter 1 verse 1 before you read that. Go ahead.
Revelation of the Yeshua Mashiach.
Revelation of the one they call Jesus Christ, whose name is Yahshua Mashiach, the anointed Savior of the Most High. Come on.
Which the Most High gave unto him to show unto his servants.
To show unto his what?
His servants.
What?
Things which must shortly come to pass.
Things which must what?
Shortly come to pass.
Shortly come to pass. Come on.
And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John.
Yachanan, another Israelite, our people. Yachanan is an Igbo or Hebrew name. Now, this is things which must shortly come to pass. And when you study the history of the book of Revelation, it was written 96 AD. Between 66 to 96 AD. Around the 1st century. But it's talking about the things starting from that 1st century that must shortly come to pass, speaking about things leading to kingdom of Christ coming, or the event that will happen before Christ's kingdom comes. Let's look at one of those events that will happen. Revelation chapter 5, and pick it up from verse 1.
Revelation chapter 5 verse 1. And I saw in the night in the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within and on the backside, sealed with 7 seals.
Sealed with how many seals?
With 7 seals.
7 seals contains information or activities or events which will shortly come to pass that will bring things to cause to happen in this earth. Come on.
And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice.
What is he saying?
Who is worthy?
Who is worthy
to open the book and to loose the seal thereof? And no man
That's the question the angel is asking. Because this book needs to be opened. The seal needs to be opened. Come on.
And no man in heaven, nor in the earth, neither under the earth, was able to open the book, neither to look thereon.
Not even a person is worthy to open this book, because this book contains lamentation and woe and the events that will bring the kingdom of Christ to come. He is the one that's authorized to open it. Come on.
And I wept much.
And I what?
Wept much.
Yakonan, who they call John or Johannes. John in English or Johannes in Greek. His name is Yakonan in our language, Hebrew. And I wept much. He was crying. Why?
Because no man was found worthy to open and to read the book.
You see there?
Neither to look thereon.
Neither to even look in there. He's beginning to cry because when you go to Revelation chapter 9, he tells you that he was crying. We've been going through tribulation. The real Jews, we've been suffering, scattered in diaspora. Go back to Revelation chapter 1 and read verse 9. Revelation chapter 1 verse 9.
I, John, who also am your brother and companion in tribulation.
I, Yakonan, who also am your brother, meaning that he's an Israelite and also companion in what?
In tribulation.
He's also suffering with us because we were broken by Romans, just like all these places were broken by the Syria was also broken by the Romans and taking over those areas and in total domination and conquest. He's been going through tribulation. Why?
In the kingdom and in patience of Yeshua Mashiach.
And impatiently waiting for the government of Christ to come. That's what he was doing. So back now to Revelation chapter 5. That's why he was weeping. Our people has been mourning in tribulation, went through slavery, colonization, poverty, scattered worldwide, pillaged, marginalized, brainwashed, we thought. So here he says, Revelation chapter 5, verse 4.
And I wept much.
Because that's why we went back with the precept, so we can emphasize it. I wept much. Why?
Because no man was found worthy to open and to read the book, neither to look thereon.
Now, this is profound because you have a brother, a true Israelite, a disciple of Christ, weeping, understanding the importance of Christ, this book opening, so that all these things will happen in the earth for our kingdom to come, but none of our people cares. They've got the Bible, they don't have the knowledge, not even the so-called modern Christians, because they've been misled and mistaught. They don't understand that these events must happen. John, who understands this thing, is weeping that there's no one that can open this book. This book needs to be opened. The seal needs to be opened, to be cracked open for the kingdom of Christ to come. That's why he was crying. Read it.
Revelation chapter 5 verse 4.
Come on.
And I wept much because no man was found worthy to open and to read the book, neither to look thereon. And one of the elders said unto me, Weep not, weep not. Behold, what? Behold,
come on,
the lion of the tribe of Yehudah.
The lion of who?
Of the tribe of Yehudah.
Evil man.
The roots of David.
David
have prevailed to open the book.
To open the book. He has already conquered the power of darkness. He has paid the price for our sin. He has prevailed to open the book.
And to loose the seals.
And he did what?
To loose the seven seals
He
thereof.
loosed all the seals when he went there. Why?
The seven seals thereof. And I beheld, and lo, in the midst of the throne, and of the four beasts.
And of the what?
And of the four beasts.
Come on.
And in the midst of the elders stood a lamb as it were had been slain.
Come on.
Having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of the Most High, sent forth in all the earth.
The 7 spirits of the Most High what?
Sent forth in all the earth.
And these spirits are the spirits that bring prophecy to happen. Why? Let's show you that the spirit of Christ is behind prophecy. That's in the book of the testimony of Christ is the spirit of prophecy. In the book of Revelation, it tells you there, Revelation chapter 19, verse 10. Let's read there.
And I fell at his feet to worship him.
And I fell at his feet to worship him.
And he said unto me,
what did he say?
See thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant, and of thy brethren.
I'm an Israelite like you, and also a servant. The Israelites are the servants. Come on.
And of thy brethren that have the testimony of Yeshua.
Because you have to have that's why it's important to know the truth. The true Israelites, the true believers have to have the true testimony. And we're going to find out what is the testimony of Christ. Read it.
worshipped Elohim.
Why?
For the testimony of Yeshua is the spirit of prophecy.
This testimony is understanding prophecy. The testimony of Christ is the spirit that brings prophecy to be fulfilled. You see that? So you have to, that's why we study prophecy and history. Because prophecy and history is the same thing. So back now to Revelation chapter 5.
Verse 6. And I beheld, and lo, in the midst of the throne and of the four beasts, and in the midst of the elders, stood a lamb as it were had been slain.
Come on.
Having 7 horns and 7 eyes.
Go ahead.
Which are the 7 spirits of the Most High.
The 7 spirits of what?
The Most High.
The spirit behind prophecy. These are the 7 spirits that will begin to fulfill events to happen in the world. Come on.
7 spirits of the Most High sent forth in all the earth.
They are sent forth to bring forth the prophecy. The 7 spirits are also angels that are working to bring this thing to come to pass, for Christ's kingdom to come. Go ahead.
And he came and took the book out of the right hand of him that sat upon the throne.
Go ahead.
And when he had taken the book, the 4 beasts and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, having every one of them harps and golden vials full of odors, which are the prayers of the saints.
Which are the what?
The prayers of the saints.
Come down to chapter 6 and let's look at the seals now that were opened. Verse 1.
Chapter 6, verse 1.
Go ahead.
And it says, and I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals.
What happened when he opened one of the seals?
And I heard as it were the noise of thunder, one of the 4 beasts saying, Come and see.
Come and see.
And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering, and to conquer.
So there's a war raging, that the seal that was waging for conquering and conquer. That we're not going to teach on the seals today, but these are things that was open for things to happen in the earth. Come on.
And when he had opened the 2nd seal,
what happened?
I heard the 2nd beast say, Come and see.
Come and see.
And there went out another horse that was red.
And that was what?
That was red.
It's significant that the dragon is also red. Go ahead.
And power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth.
So take what?
Peace from the earth.
So this red dragon that we're going to break down in another teaching is going to take away peace. Another one's going to become war and conquest. These are all the stuff that was opened up since crisis, that events that will happen after the death of Christ. Go ahead.
And that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword.
So war and conquest and destruction is part of the seals that was opened for the major slaughter.
This is after Christ.
This is after Christ.
You know, this pastor, they are not teaching this one in the Revelation.
No,
they don't know what the Revelation is saying.
Even this man used to draw the horse, the red, and
right.
the
But he doesn't know what it means.
Yes.
John
Hagee.
Hagee.
No, John Hagee. They're teaching lies. You don't understand prophecy if you don't know history and know the true records. You don't know who Israel is and who the Gentiles are. This is how they deceive our people, because how many of our people get a chance to really understand these things? They just take whatever is given to them. John Hagee has no authority over the Bible.
And they'll put it in writing, selling.
And they're selling books over these types of prophecy. They don't know what the Bible is saying, really. It's part of the propaganda machine to keep our people sleeping. So here we go. War and conquest and conquering is part of the seal that was opened up in the heavenly realms. So here we go.
2nd Ezra chapter 16 verse 3. A sword is sent upon you, and who may turn it back?
So the Most High opened the sword, the conquest, the war to happen, to lead to the nation to fight, to bring our kingdom. Because the war took us down and scattered us through economic and political conquest. Go ahead.
A fire is sent among you.
Nuclear, thermonuclear explosion. We read them concerned about that even in Syria. Go ahead.
Who may quench it?
They're also concerned about it in Iran. Nuclear, thermonuclear explosion. They can't stop these missiles when they begin to be released. Go ahead.
Plagues are sent unto you.
Plagues, death, mourning, and sorrow are sent upon the earth. Come on.
What is he that may drive them away?
Who can reverse the situation? Go ahead.
May any man drive away an hungry lion in the woods? Or may anyone quench the fire in stubble?
Can you go put your hand in the fire and take out the wood that is burning in the fire? Go ahead.
When it had begun to burn?
No.
May one turn again the arrow that is shot of a strong archer?
A strong, mighty warrior, when he shoots an archer, can you go reverse it? The Most High say, I'm the one behind these wars. I'm the one that causing these things to happen to bring my rulership to come. And they know it. Go ahead.
The mighty Lord sendeth the plagues.
He's the one that's doing what?
Sendeth the plagues.
He's saying plagues. He's allowing these things to happen. It was a seal that was open to cause this war to happen, even as we see in Syria. Come on.
Who is he that can drive them away?
No one.
A fire shall go forth from his wrath. And who is he that may quench it?
Come on.
He shall cast lightnings. And who shall not fear?
Come on.
He shall thunder. And who shall not be afraid?
Come on.
The Most High shall threaten. And who shall not utterly be victim to
powder
in his presence?
He's behind. They haven't told us about this God in Christian doctrine. They say he's all loving, but he's behind all these things.
Yes.
It's profound. This is major.
Because we rejected his
The whole earth
and the
went away from his ways.
Yes.
Go ahead.
The earth quaketh, and the foundation thereof. The sea ariseth up with waves from the deep, and the waves of it are troubled, and the fishes thereof also, before the Lord, before the glory of his power.
Come on.
For strong is his right hand.
Go ahead.
That bendeth the bow.
That bendeth the what?
The bow.
His right hand is Christ, who's behind the wall. He opened the seals. Come on.
His arrows that he shooteth are sharp, and shall not miss when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world.
When they begin to be shot, what?
Into the ends of the world.
It's going to have global repercussions. These are the wars that are going to lead to the collapse of Western civilization for Jacob's kingdom to rise. Go ahead.
Behold, the plagues are sent, and shall not return again until they come upon the earth.
He's already sent. Christ already opened the seal.
Just read that.
We read that. Go ahead.
The fire is kindled, and shall not be put out, till it consume the foundation of the earth.
Come on.
Like as an arrow which is shot of a mighty archer, runneth not backward. Even so, the plagues that shall be sent upon the earth shall not return again.
You see that?
Hey.
Come on.
Woe is me.
Woe is me.
Woe is
Woe
me.
is me.
Who will deliver me?
Who will deliver me in these are difficult days that we're coming. Brothers and sisters, days of difficulty, days of great tribulation are happening. When this war explodes, that will impact Iran, it will impact global socio-political systems and industrial complexes. The days of mourning and sorrow, you're going to find out the reason why all these things are happening is because they have broken his laws, changed everything, and the people of God are at the bottom and being totally exploited. Read it.
18. The beginning of sorrows
This
and the great
is
mourning.
the beginning of sorrow and what?
Great mourning.
Great suffering. Come on.
The beginning of famine and great death.
Because you can't even go to shop anymore. When the system breaks because of war, how are you going to go shop? How are you going to feed your children? It requires a different mentality. Your faith and your walk towards the Most High will save you. Your true righteousness and faith in Christ. The world is not ready for this. That's why they're going to die like flies. Go ahead.
Yeah. The beginning of 18. The beginning of sorrows and the great mournings. The beginning of famine and great death.
And what?
Great death.
And what?
Great death.
Great death. Population depletion. This is what is coming. The Most High opened and allowed a seal to happen. That the Zionist powers control the world with other European powers. The secret power that has hijacked the government of America are allowed to do this. Read it.
The beginning of wars, and the powers shall stand in fear, and the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come?
What is he going to do? What is anyone going to be able to do? Come on.
Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish.
What?
Tribulation and anguish.
Before that,
behold, famine and plague.
Lack of food and plague, sickness and diseases and suffering. And what else?
Tribulation and anguish.
Tribulation, suffering and sorrow.
are sent as scourges for amendment.
They are sent something to burn you so you can change. The reason why all these things that happen is that people will repent and come back to the Most High. But they will not. But what will happen?
But for all these things,
But when all these things are happening,
they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges.
because the Most High is sending it, but the people will never listen to him. That's why we're telling our people to wake up. These wars are leading to awakening of Zion. To awakening of the people, both Jews and Gentiles, that will wake up. We're trying to round up here. Second Ezra is what we just finished reading. Now let's finish Isaiah chapter 34 now. And then we're going to finish with Isaiah 34 and Isaiah chapter 62. Our last precept. Isaiah chapter 34 verse 1.
Isaiah 34 verse 1, and it reads, Come near, ye nations,
Come ye, ye nations,
to hear, and hearken, ye people.
come on.
Let the earth hear.
Let the earth listen. The most
34 verse 1.
Let the earth listen to what's really going on. The Most High is drawing their attention through all these scourges for amendment. Go ahead.
And all that is therein, the world and all things that come forth of it. For the indignation of the Most High is upon all nations.
His anger is upon all what?
All nations.
All the Gentile government. Come on.
And his fury upon all their armies.
He's drawing their armies to come in the valley of Yehoshaphat. Yahuchiafa, Chineke Chiafa. Let the Most High judge them. Read it.
He had utterly destroyed them. He had delivered them to be slaughtered.
You see how he caused the war to happen? He allowed this military to fight amongst themselves. Read it.
Their slain also shall be cast out. Their stink shall come up out of their carcasses, and the mountains shall be melted with their blood.
Come on.
And all the host of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll.
Linking to that Matthew chapter 24 when Christ is returned, telling you that this prophecy has not been fulfilled yet. Go ahead.
And all their hosts shall fall down, and the leaf falleth off from the vine, as the leaf falleth off from the vine, and as a fallen fig from the fig tree.
As a fallen fig from the what?
Fig tree.
All the heavenly hosts, the fallen angels, is going to shake them down like a leaf fall out of a fig tree. Go ahead.
For my sword shall be bathed in heaven.
His sword shall be drenched from the heavenly realms. Come on. Behold,
I shall come down upon Idumea.
He shall come down upon who?
Idumea.
The Western civilization, Edom. Come on.
And upon the people of my curse.
Upon the people that are behind this wall that Satan is using, the governing power that we've been reading about that are conquering under Alexander, conquering under Roman Empire, conquering under EU, America, conquering with the Zionist regime, controlling all these things, that are really not telling their people what's really going on, really. The Most High say his blood is drenched with blood, and it's going to come down upon Idumea, a people that he cursed, like we saw he cursed the serpent. And that's who serpents have been using to wage his own war against the woman that brought about the man child. Go ahead.
It shall come upon the people of my curse to judgment. 6. The sword of the Most High is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness.
It is made fat with what?
With fatness.
This is the blood that the Father is sending on the earth before Christ is coming. That's what these wars are leading to. Go ahead.
With the blood of lambs and goats, and with the fat of kidneys of
rams.
For the Most High had a sacrifice in Bosra.
What is Bosra? The capital city of Edom. Bosra is where the Caucasians was in Edom before they begin to move to Greeks and Rome. It's amazing. Go ahead.
And a great slaughter in the land of Idumea.
The land of what?
Idumea.
Idumea. Come on.
And the unicorn shall come down with them, and the bullocks with the bulls, and their lands shall be soaked with blood, and their dust made fat with fatness.
And their dust made fat with what?
Fatness.
Come on.
For it is the day of the Most High's vengeance.
The day of the Most High's vengeance. So you see there? He allows judgment to come upon the military But he knows who's been the strong of the military. The one that is going to break is the power of this EU and the powers, the luminous powers that are controlling the world, deceiving their own very people. Go ahead.
For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance, and the year of recompense for the controversy of Zion.
For the controversy of what?
Of Zion.
All this war is because of what?
Zion.
Zion! This war that you see raging is because of the controversy of Zion. How they all got together and scattered and pillaged us. Now they are in a total chaos, leading to our kingdom coming. The controversy of Zion. Let's read Isaiah chapter 62, verse 1, and we're done with that. Isaiah, that's Yahshua, chapter 62, verse 1. The reason why these wars are fighting is for our kingdom to come, for Christ's rulership to come. So if you're a Christian out there, whether you're a Jew or a Gentile, you should be pulling for our people. The poor people went through slavery, went through colonization and poverty. We lost our history, our identity. All the Gentile kind of conspiracy under the EU and United Nations, they put the Gentile Israelis in Jerusalem, who are not the true Jews. The real Jews are the poor people that you see suffering in Mexico, in Puerto Rico, that you see suffering in North Central South America, that were destroyed by Christopher Columbus when he first came to America. The real poor people of the earth. Why shouldn't we look for them? It's all about the controversy of the people of covenant that was covenanted that they're going to rule. But they have left it in Christian doctrine. They have left it in history books. But we got the records now. Brothers and sisters, it's time to wake up. It's time to wake up to what's really going on. Days of difficulties and great hardship is coming. Time to wake up from the illusion of television, of deceptions from music industry. All this diversionary that they've created through the mass media to keep you busy with football, keep you busy with everything else. Put your head in the scriptures. Put your head in history. And understand that the devil has hijacked the earth by the wicked ruling powers. And they're planning to kill both black and white, both Jews and Gentiles. They don't matter. But their real battle is against us, the seed of Jacob. Here we rise in Isaiah 62 verse 1. This is all about the controversy of Zion. What you see going on in Syria has always been about us. And they know it. Isaiah 62 verse 1.
For Zion's sake will I not hold my peace.
For Zion's sake, I will not hold my peace. Are they saying this in the churches today? No. We're gonna continue to prophesy. What did the King David say? Hold not thy peace. Be not silent. For lo, thy enemies have lifted up their head, and they that hate thee are making a tumult. David was not keeping quiet. I will not keep quiet. Will you? We're going to continue to prophesy and speak this truth as long as we have power and breath in our life to let our people, it's their time to wake up. The kingdom is at hand. Read it.
For Zion's sake will I not hold my peace.
Come on.
And for Jerusalem's sake I will not rest.
Come on.
Until the righteousness thereof go forth as brightness. And the salvation
and
thereof.
The what?
And the salvation.
The salvation, the rulership promised to us, come on,
thereof as a lamp that burneth.
As a lamp that burns. As a lamp that shines so bright. We're not going to rest, brothers and sisters. We will continue to declare the truth. Let them know that our government is at hand. Read it.
And the Gentiles shall see thy righteousness, and all the kings thy glory, and thou shalt be called by a new name, which the mouth of Ahiah shall name.
That name has not been revealed yet. He's going to give us a new name. Praise the Most High. Read it.
Thou shalt also be a crown of glory in the hand of the Most High.
Come on.
And a royal diadem.
This is the kingdom of Christ.
In the hand of Allah.
In the hand of who?
In the land.
A royal jewelry. The kingship is belong to Jacob. This is why all these wars are raging. That the nations where their armies are fighting to break their power, that the poor will rise. The first shall be the last, and the last first. Read it.
Thou shalt no more be termed forsaken.
We shall no more be called what?
Termed forsaken.
Because we were forsaken. We went into captivity and slavery and forsaken as a people. They were not even in the picture of all the war that's going on in the Middle East right now. It's really about us. They don't know it, but we're not even in the picture. Jerusalem has been forsaken. The Gentiles have taken over the land. Exactly what Christ prophesied. And thou shalt be termed, no more be termed what?
Forsaken.
Come on.
Neither shall thy land any more be termed desolate.
Our land, the land of Jerusalem, shall not anymore be called what?
Desolate.
It shall no more be called desolate. Because our land became desolate when we broke the covenant because our forefathers were disobedient. Read it.
But thou shalt be called Hephzibah,
Thou shalt be called Hephzibah,
and thy land Beulah.
and thy land what?
Beulah.
Beulah. Read it.
For the Most High delighted in thee, and thy land shall be married.
Go ahead.
As for a young man, as a young man married a virgin, so shall thy sons marry thee. And as the bridegroom rejoice over the bride, so shall the Most High rejoice over thee.
So the Most High is going to rejoice over the people of Zion. This is our land, brothers and sisters. But the Most High is bringing a change and a transformation
To that land.
to that land.
That's right.
A new kingdom. Not the one that was built with earthly material, but the land whose Most High is actually the maker, the architect, and the builder. The land of Jerusalem. Read it.
I have set watchmen upon thy walls, O Jerusalem, which shall never hold their peace day or night.
So the Most High has a people that understand what's really going on, like us. We're researching. We're not sleeping. We're going to continue to prophesy this truth day and night. Go ahead.
Ye that make mention of the Most High, keep not silence.
Do not be quiet. Do not be quiet. We got to continue to speak this truth to let our people know, even when they don't want to hear it. And let the Spirit do its work. Read it.
And give him no rest till he establishes, and till he make Jerusalem a praise in the earth.
This is the holy Jerusalem that we saw in Revelation chapter 22-21, that is promised, that has our names written on it as the children of Zion. Read it.
The Most High hath sworn by his right hand, and by the arm of his strength,
Which is Christ.
what is surely I will no more give thy corn to be meat for thine enemies, and the sons of thy strangers shall not drink thy wine for which thou hast labored, but they that have gathered it shall eat it.
You see that?
Praise the Most High.
Praise the Most High. We're going to enjoy our fruit of labor now. So you're not going to work 9 to 5 building the Western civilization through slavery. Industrial revolution was built by our people. We've exploited. We built the railroads. We built everything for nothing. But now the kingdom that Christ promised us is fast approaching. For anyone that loves truth and justice, they should join us in the cause for the great awakening, for this prophecy to fulfill. If you say you believe in Christ, this is the true work that needs to be done. Forget about what is said in these churches. It's about bringing the sons of Zion back and bringing the kingdom about the people and the land. Read it.
And they that have brought it together,
What
shall, verse 9,
Go ahead. But they that have gathered it
shall eat it, and praise the Most High, and they that brought it together shall drink it, and in the court of my holiness.
because it's going to be a holy nation. No evil, no sin, no wickedness, no exploitation anymore, no more war. It will be peace. This is what we're looking forward to. Read it.
Go through the gates. Prepare ye the way of the people.
Prepare ye the what?
The way of the people.
We're going in the highways to begin to prepare our people and even the Gentiles that want to receive this truth. Read it.
Cast up the highways. Gather out the stones. Lift up a standard for the people.
Come on.
Behold, the Lord had proclaimed unto the ends of the world.
He has sent a message to the end of the world, back in the book of Jeremiah and many places in the Bible. What?
Say ye to the daughter of Zion,
You tell my people what?
behold, thy salvation cometh.
Our salvation is here.
That's what Christ did.
Christ said
That's what,
salvation is of the Jews.
the
This
kingdom,
is the true gospel of peace, the gospel of salvation to the poor
the
and the
kingdom of
meek.
heaven is at hand.
The kingdom of heaven is at hand. Read it.
Thy salvation cometh. Behold, his reward is with him, and his work before him.
He's going to reward you according to your walk in the kingdom. Read it.
And they shall call them, and the holy people,
They shall call us what?
the holy people,
We are the holy people. Read it.
the redeemed of the Most High.
Because he has redeemed us from this world because of these wars and destruction. Read it.
And thou shalt be called, sought out, a city
Not forsaken.
Praise the Most High.
Amen.
That's the burden of Syria, is the controversy of Zion.